Hello and welcome to another edition of the B&B Show. My name is Brandon Kane. This guy to my left is going to be Seahawks Brendan Nelson, or to your right, I suppose. Brendan, how is it doing, man? How's it feel coming off a bye? Is it a little bit foreign to you? Like, what is this? I'm in the
Yeah,
playoffs, but I don't play?
yeah, it's been a little while. I mean, we've had it before. We've had that first round bye before, but it's been a minute, and it's really precious right now, right? Because they only give out two a year now, and last time we got one, they gave out 4 a year. So that number one seed is really valuable right now, and Seattle did a lot of great work this year to get it. So hopefully they can make it count over the next couple of weeks.
I found myself, and maybe it's just that you're on the bye week and everybody's playing and you're not, and you get the number one seed. Maybe it's kind of artificial and gassing yourself up a little bit with this. But I found myself with a quiet, resolved sort of confidence with this sort of week to sort of sit on this team and think about this season and think about where this team is at. Do you feel the same way, or is there a growing sense of nervousness that just kind of comes with playoff football at times when you know it's do or die?
Yeah, I feel the nervousness creeping in. It has to, right? It doesn't matter who you're playing. It doesn't matter the circumstances. How can you not be a little bit nervous coming off a 14-win regular season where you know what's going to happen this offseason? We're going to lose some coaches. We're going to lose some players. And this group is never going to be together again the way that it is right now. So you're going to have other chances to win down the line, of course. But with this particular group, this is probably your only shot. There's no way you're going to keep everybody. So you got to cash in while it's there. And there are some nerves that come with that. But at the same time, I think this team has earned our trust.
Any major sort of takeaways from watching the wild card weekend action? I felt like there was a little bit loose and freeness with the ball at times, turnover wise. Typically, you get playoffs where that seems to be a little bit more lock and key, where teams are a little more careful. Felt like teams were kind of letting it go, fourth downs, going for it right and left. It felt like the teams that ran the ball found the most success, that stayed committed to doing that. Anything that you had that stood out to you?
I think it's just how close most of the games were. And it does remind you that when you get into the playoffs, things are always going to get condensed down a little bit. You're not going to just blow teams out the way that Seattle did quite a few times this year. You're not going to have an easy path. The games are probably going to be tough. And maybe we'll see something different this weekend. But it was a kind of a keen reminder that little weaknesses in your team get blown up in the postseason because you're playing better teams. Even a team like the Rams going up against a bad team in the Panthers. You saw how close that game was. That game came down to the wire, and it was largely because that Panthers team, as flawed as they are, were able to take advantage of a lot of little issues that Rams team has. And even though the Rams are much better than the Panthers, they were still able to push them to the limit. You saw it in I would say to a certain extent, the Niners-Eagles game, and the Niners actually ended up winning this game. That Eagles team, their roster right now is clearly in a much better state than the Niners, but they've got these little issues with dysfunction with their offense, with their coaching staff versus their players, and the Niners were able to just put a giant microscope on all those issues and actually win a game on the road. So it was a reminder that it's not going to be easy. Like, as much as we can sit here and think, oh, this is going to be easy, because look at how good we did in the regular season. It's not.
It's not. Playoff football is a different brand of football. Good points on your part, and I'm expecting that I'm going to predict a bit of more of a comfortable win on this one, just because of where I feel like this team is, and just that I think that we have less of those things that the Niners can kind of go out and expose for where we're playing, where our team's at. Just kind of the full meal deal. If I had you fill in the answer on this one of Brendan's confidence in the Seattle Seahawks going and getting a Super Bowl win this year after watching Wild Card Weekend have been fill in the blank.
I would say it's probably gone up a little bit. I would say it's probably up a little bit because you take a look at these other teams, everything just looks so flawed. Like, even I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but you look over in the AFC, it's like who's it really going to be here? Is it really going to be Houston with their suddenly like legitimately bad quarterback play? Is it going to be um Buffalo with their one of the worst defenses in football? Like, somebody very flawed is going to get offered up from that side. Like, no way around it.
True, man. Buffalo's got like three receivers left.
Yeah.
Like, they're just,
or
I mean, they're going.
yeah, or if it's Denver. I mean, I respect Denver, but I think that's a terrible matchup for Denver if they play Seattle in the Super Bowl. That's like, I think that's the exact kind of offense Seattle can just tee off on.
I agree. I even think the defense, as good as it is they will be playing style like we faced in the early part of the year. If we face them with that, they love to blitz early downs. And we did show that we can sort of, if that's your methodology, we can probably get after you if that's what you're going to try to, attack us with. So, yeah, I felt the same way, that there was a little bit of a slight increase standpoint. I did feel like the AFC teams felt definitely weaker to me, Brendan, than the NFC this year. And maybe it's just the games itself, but you thought it going in and you got a little bit of confirmation on that coming off the wild card games. Ugly games, just jointed teams. I mean, CJ Stroud, that's not his first playoff game. Guy couldn't even catch a snap, Brendan.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. And like, I know New England ended up winning by 2 scores and they ended up controlling that game, but that game was not over early. That game went all the way into the 4th quarter before it was closed. And that was with Justin Herbert trying to basically hand New England the game the whole way and just playing one of the worst games I've ever seen him play, and still ended up close. So I don't know. I look at that AFC and I'm like, I don't know who's going to make it, but whoever it is not going to be as strong as a typical Super Bowl team.
And I'm not going to hammer on this one too long, because this week we're going to get a lot of determination on this, where the people that are bringing this kind of stuff up are either going to get really quiet or they're just going to get even louder. But I did feel like watching the AFC teams and a CJ Stroud and Justin Herbert, I'm just kind of reminded of the fact that these are 2 particular quarterbacks that are going to get a pass in a way that Sam Darnold doesn't. And that I thought CJ in that way almost tried to lose the game for the Texans at a lot of times in that game, if not for their defense saving him. And likewise with Herbert. I mean, the passing and the offensive line wasn't great, but it's not like Herbert gets any credit for that last year when the Rams walked through the Vikings, porous offensive line. Do you feel the same way a little bit on that coming out of this weekend?
I could definitely see that, but I am definitely seeing public perception shift against CJ Stroud in particular. And I think we're going to get there with Herbert very soon here. I think that you are starting to see people going, hey, what the heck is going on here? Why aren't these guys a little bit further along? And I do agree with the offensive line part, because everybody talks about the Chargers offensive line. Everybody, like, it's very well known public knowledge that Chargers offensive line is one of the worst that we've seen in a while. It was possibly the worst in the entire league in 2025. And obviously it was no better in that postseason game, but you're right. There is definitely some truth to that. And I mean, all I can say is that Darnold has a chance to kind of end that narrative forever this Saturday. If he can go out there and play well and win against a team that, by the way, does not have any kind of a pass rush whatsoever, then I don't think anybody will have much to say.
No, we got to finally get maybe this narrative to be finally put to bed. Just one more satisfying part to getting a win this week, Brendan, is that gets to be put away and we don't have to keep talking about that over and over again and having it just keep churning over, just churn it over again. Well, we're going to try to, folks, get into a creative way of Braden to break this game down, because this is not typical in any way, shape, or form. And that you have an opponent that we've talked about already twice this year. We just talked about this matchup pretty intricately 2 weeks ago. So we're going to go through some of the stuff on this and try to kind of go into things that we feel like have changed or separated. I think that the game plan on both sides of the ball remains very much similar to what it's been prior. But let's start out, Brendan, with a little bit of, and I know we'll be maybe getting some injury updates here in about another 40 minutes or so, 50 minutes or so when we get the final injury reports out. But where are we at injury? Let's give them some updates on where we find ourselves for this game leading into it, Brendan.
Okay, so you want to start with the Niners offense or the defense?
Well, we could be here all day with either side of the ball. No, I'm kidding. Let's go with offense.
All right, so the Niners offense and then the Seahawks defense kind of as a partner with that. So the main difference from 2 weeks ago, because really we're going to be thinking about the game 2 weeks ago, because it was 2 weeks ago. We just played this team. So that team, they're almost definitely going to have Trent Williams this week because he played last week. So Trent Williams is back, and that's big. That's significant. They might get Ricky Pearsall back. They might. I wouldn't assume anything with Pearsall because he is such a delicate player. They might get Pearsall back. But they got no George Kittle. George Kittle is out. I mean, he might be out next year. He might be out for the rest of his career. It was a pretty devastating injury for a 32-year-old to have. So they got no Kittle. But with Trent Williams out there, they should do a little bit of a better job protecting Purdy, because in that last game, they definitely had some issues protecting Purdy. And if they have Pearsall, I do think that gives them a little bit of speed that they did not have in that game a couple weeks ago, where maybe they can threaten down the field a little bit, which they were not able to do at all in that game we played a couple weeks ago. So I think that things change a little bit, but at the same time, let's not forget how important Kittle is to that team. Kittle changes so much for them, not just with their passing game, but he's also an excellent blocker for their run game. And their run game has really kind of gone up in smoke over the last couple of weeks, it feels like, because I think McCaffrey's just completely out of gas. And this is the exact kind of rushing attack that I think the Seahawks defense is built to stop. The outside zone, speed-based rushing attack. So they gained some stuff from last time, but they've also lost some stuff. And it might come out as a small net positive, but I'd say a pretty small one.
Yeah, and I think even with Trent Williams, you're looking at a guy who probably is nowhere close to 100%. I think he wasn't necessarily well graded. He's pretty closely graded to where we had Austin Pleasant graded for them at left tackle coming off the heels of Eagles last week. And the Eagles can't exactly throw a bevy of edge rushers at you like we can. So it'll be kind of interesting to see where really Trent's health, really where that does kind of stand and fit. And then the defensive side of the ball.
Right. So defensively, the main difference is the Niners look like they're going to be down Jair Brown, the safety. Now, a lot of Niners fans say that Jair Brown is bad. I don't know if he is or not. I know that it's kind of a thing where Niners fans think that he sucks. I will say that his likely replacement, I think his name is Siegel or Seagull. Yeah. Probably a little bit better against the run, probably a little bit better tackler, but a much bigger liability in coverage. So there is a trade-off there. Now, we do have a little bit of a situation brewing here with Fred Warner, where they're starting to hype it up like he might actually play a little bit this week. I'm a little skeptical on that. I know Richard Sherman has already said there's no way he's going to play this week. I saw him in practice. He looked slow. He looked sloppy. So it sounds like they're kind of messing around a little bit, kind of like they did with Trent Williams a couple weeks ago when we played them, and they were trying to say, oh, he might play when everybody knew he wasn't going to play. But it is worth monitoring. Now, one mitigating factor here is that if the Niners do not have Fred Warner, which is still, I think, the more likely outcome here, they found at least a little bit of stability with Kendricks out there, which they did not have previously. So they're not completely destitute at linebacker the way they might have been, but it's still looking mighty thin up front for those Niners, even if they get Keon White back for this game, which looks likely.
Yeah, the Fred Warner's an interesting one because, you just have Kittle go down last week. And Brendan, I thought, be interested to hear if you feel the same way. My sneaking suspicion on this is like the Daniel Jones, where Daniel has the broken one leg and then he's trying to support the other leg a little too much and then he ends up snapping the Achilles. And I felt like when you watched him on that, you could feel even on that slow motion of the play where he's stepping on the left foot and he can't put as much weight down the left foot as he wants to. So it's all going onto the right hard. And then ends up snapping it. And it's like, you guys are already going to be down Kittle on this. Is this a worthwhile risk for you all next year to have these two guys off? I mean, you lose both a Kittle and a Warner for next year's team already with Bosa coming back off the injury he is, and your first round pick coming off the ACL he is. I mean, and maybe it's not in their math on this, and maybe Fred Warner's one of those vets, Brendan. I've been referencing it like Russ with the high ankle sprain in 17 or with the finger when that was broken, that, these vets get to this point and they've done so much for your team that they can kind of make the call in that moment of whether they play or not. But this is one where I think the Niners really, not just because I don't want to face Warner, but because you look at their situation, that could become a catastrophe really quickly if you have him out there and he isn't ready to go.
Well, it's the Kyle Shanahan way, right? That's the Kyle Shanahan way. Just put your players out there and let them die for you. And, it's a risk that he's willing to take because it's not his body that's getting broken up. So I don't think he's going to play. I think they're messing around. But it is notable that as of right now, it seems like a possibility, at least. I have to believe that even if he plays, he'll be on a limited snap count, or he'll just re-injure himself like you're intimating, which, hey, I understand. We're in the divisional round of the playoffs. We're a few games away from the Super Bowl. To a certain extent, I'm sure these players are like, well, screw if I get hurt. I just want to be out there and try to help my team win because this is what it's all for. Especially a player like Fred Warner, who I know he's not old yet, but he's getting to the point where he starts to probably wonder, how many more chances am I going to have at this? I'm sure Kittle's thinking something similar when he goes out there in that Eagles game or against the Seahawks a couple weeks ago. But it I don't know. It seems a little irresponsible to me. And we make fun of Shanahan for some of the injury stuff that he does, but I don't think he's that irresponsible.
I would think not. I mean, I think with the injury stuff, they'd be a little more careful than the overuse, but you aren't kidding. You mentioned McCaffrey. If that guy got to the Super Bowl this year, I think he'd probably end up setting a touch record in NFL history. And the guy might end up with like 550 touches if they got to the Super Bowl with how they use him so often. So, Debo Samuel before him, was in the same kind of way, where it's just like they used him up in a lot of ways and blew him out a little bit. So we'll see how it goes with that as far as the injury goes. Still, Seattle's got a defense that's not a particularly strong one, where there's a lot of ways for them to still go after, an attack. So it's, I think, as good as you could ask, especially considering our injury situation, though we did have one crazy injury that came up yesterday, Brendan, that has me a little concerned.
Yeah, we got to talk about this. So most of it's pretty clear. Most of it looks pretty good, but it seems like, and we didn't get full context yet. I want to be clear. We're speculating here. It seems like Cross injured his knee at some point yesterday and was limited in practice. But what that could mean is that he was practicing in full, then he got hurt, and then he left for the rest of practice. So normally I would look at a limited practice on Wednesday and be like, oh, that's totally fine. We're good. We got nothing to worry about. But the context of this limited does make me wonder how in how good a shape is this guy going to be. And remember, Josh Jones, they talked about how he's basically held together with duct tape at this point, and he has not practiced yet this week either. So we do have a little something going on there that I think needs to be understood as we go into the rest of this week. It is not a perfect setup here like we were hoping with the bye week. If anything, we got a little more injured over the bye week, I think.
This team has gotten more injured in bye weeks this year, Brendan, than they do in the regular season. It's frustrating sometimes. The bye week, same thing happened to us on the bye. Remember, we had like 3 guys get injured on the bye week before. It's like, what happened here, guys? What the hell's going on? Well, let's peel into this matchup a little bit. We got a couple donos. Let me catch up on these real quick. Phoebe Moore Seahawks, thank you for the $5 donation. I don't get the hate on Arthur Smith. He's a proven play caller who runs zone blocking under center. What did he really have to work with in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, Arthur Smith kind of feels like he's been really unlucky over the last several years with what he's been able to work with. Like he leaves Atlanta right before they get Bijan. And then, and I think he would have done great stuff with Bijan. The guys they have right now are doing great stuff with Bijan, and I don't think they're as good as Arthur Smith. And then in Pittsburgh, he gets saddled with a roster that isn't really built to his strengths, and maybe not built to anyone's strengths, because I don't think they have a lot of talent, period. I imagine that Arthur Smith is still a coveted offensive coordinator, and I'll say it, if he does end up shaking free this offseason because of Tomlin stepping down, I'm pretty all over that to replace Kubiak if it comes to that.
Yeah, I definitely think that he's a good offensive mind. I think what Brendan said on this is very smart. Brendan Liff had on to that as well. Tannehill before that, so he's not exactly gone through a.
And he turned Tannehill into an elite quarterback for a little while there. There was that one year where Tannehill was like 120 QB rating.
Yeah, and I mean, it's that Pittsburgh offense, like you said, was a mess. So I can't hold them responsible on that. They never did in Atlanta. They never got him the quarterback, which I think if you have an offensive minded head coach, you never give him a quarterback. I think that that's really unfair in trying to judge that guy, because you just didn't get him the main. It's like having him cook a dish without the meat. It's like I can do all this stuff on the outside of it, but I still am missing the meat when it's all said and done. There's only so much I can do to make this look good and plating this. So I think he's a really good offensive mind. I don't know if I like him as much as a head coach, which is what, of course, Arizona's right now interviewing them to be. But if he was to come here, I would be perfectly fine with it. And also, remember, he was the guy that they had targeted, but just didn't want to wait around for Mike McDonald to get hired before. So Seattle has, flirted with this possibility already once. I could easily see him being a good fit. And I just can't think, maybe Arizona does it. I think the only way he's getting a head coaching job if it's for an Arizona type team, Brendan, that just doesn't have a lot of money to spend, right? They couldn't come up with the Harbaugh cash to give him money, right? They're not going to get one of the prime candidates, so they have to go to sort of secondary city because they are a little bit of a, I'm not going to call them a welfare organization, but like they just don't get the best of the best, right?
Yeah. I do. I'm thinking about that Arizona situation, especially with Dante Moore going back to college. I can't imagine very many people wanting it either. Like they have no way to get a quarterback at this point, really, unless they want to throw a bunch of money at Daniel Jones or something like that. So that's not a desirable spot right now at all.
It's not. No, you're right about that. And there's a lot of work to be done there just beyond the quarterback position, offensive line, and where you're at skill position players is getting a little bit better. Running backs, Benson's going to come off a season-ending injury. You got nothing there. Defense is at least a little bit more solidified in the line, but the back end's got a lot of questions, I think, on it outside of a Buda Baker and a Garrett Williams. So I think that it's not a attractive destination for a lot of different reasons there, which probably is going to lead them picking through some of the lesser kind of candidates. Like, I don't think Arthur Smith's getting a head coaching job anywhere else. I don't even think anybody else is going to be interviewing him.
Mm-hmm. What about if they want to give us a couple third-round picks with Leslie Frazier? I'd be okay with that. I could live with that.
Yeah, there we go. You guys can have Leslie there. He's he's been around the block. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's been a head coach. I take a couple of those third-round picks.
Yeah. Hey, we got Dirty. Dirty's being interviewed by Cleveland, man.
Yeah. And I think Baltimore interviewed him too. Somebody else did, I know. But yeah, there's going to be some brain drain this offseason, so just get ready for it.
It is. Carl Scott out there as well, getting looked at in a couple places. It's just the nature of the beast when you win. Is that's going to happen. So
Jake Peets
might be a guy picked up as well. But yeah, we both like him, Phoebe. We both like him for a while. He'd be a good fit. Runs the ball, balanced offense, and Sam Darnold would be like for him having a Tom Brady, comparatively speaking, to what he's had to deal with. Quinn, thank you for the $5 donation, Quinn. If they put in Warner in his condition, it showed just how scared they are of us. It's such a desperation move.
I mean, I'm sure they're thinking about that game a couple weeks ago where we ran the ball all over them, and they're like, we got to find a solution. So I imagine they are kind of intimidated right now because this running game for Seattle has done nothing but get better over the last month. So I'm sure there is some desperation there because I'm sure they're looking at it and thinking, we had to give everything we had to beat Philadelphia. Like, that was a tough game. They had to really just survive it. There must be, to some extent, they're looking at their current guys and they're thinking these guys are just going to fall over when that game starts. So we got to get somebody fresh out there. And Warner, by some definition, is fresh because he hasn't played in a while. I don't know if that counts, but you're definitely trying to increase the variance in a game like this if you're the 49ers.
To your point on this, I've been having it brought up to me, and it's being brought up on the round table by a bunch of Niner fans trying to sell me on this, and it just doesn't really fly with me from my perspective, because when I look at the team that really's got the pressure on them in this game coming into this, I know we have the number 1 seed, and this doesn't mean that it wouldn't be disappointing if we lose. And it's not that we're just, everything's all good and roses if we happen to lose this game. Nothing like that at all. But when I look at pressure and I think about pressure, I think of it in terms of this team doesn't get this win in this year and this time right now. All of this is going to happen, which is going to prevent them from ever having as good a chance as right now. Like you said with the team, it's a good point about, look, this particular team will only play together once, and that you are going to have to find answers in the future. You can't just wash, rinse, repeat, and put the same thing out there that you did the prior year. But with that said, I just feel like because nobody counted on us being here, nobody even right now is still getting fully sold on us despite being the number 1 seed. You're still seeing team people out there like, I don't know, I think the Niners are going to probably do it. Like that's kind of the in vogue thing I'm hearing already this week a little bit. Whereas the Niners are at the end of the Super Bowl run. Trent Williams, does he retire this offseason? McCaffrey, does he retire this offseason? Kittle, does he retire this offseason? Fred Warner coming off 2 major lower leg injuries in back-to-back years. You say he played through a fracture all last year. You got your first-round pick. Bosa with the ACL. What's this future there? I feel like the pressure's on the Niners, in my opinion. And that this desperation move is kind of an example of that.
Yeah, there is definitely something there. I mean, this Niners core has been due to blow up for a while, and they've pushed it off with some pretty risky moves. I think they just paid Kittle last offseason a bunch of money, and that may end up becoming like a team killer at this point because, like I said, I would not expect him to play very much next year. I don't know if he'll ever play again. Like that is a devastating injury for a 32-year-old to have. They did all that with Trent Williams' contract. They gave him a bunch of money, I think, that they probably shouldn't have, but they felt obligated to. So if they don't get it done this year, that could kind of be the end of it. Whereas in Seattle, I don't even know if Seattle has everything in place that they really want to. This is still only the second year for Mike McDonald. It was the first year under a new offensive coordinator with a new quarterback. And while this exact core, like I said earlier, will never be together again, I think there's every reason to believe this team can be great again in future seasons.
I agree. I see it the same way. And I just think that that does remove a little bit of the pressure from this angle where I think of pressure being of like, this guy's a lame duck coach. We got to this, our major free agents across the board are going to move. I just think of it in circumstances of that really press for it to happen, not just merely because you're the first round pick and that if you lose, It's like, this is a division rival we're playing. This is a team very familiar with us. It's to look at it just as the seed of the Niners and say, well, because they're this low seed and we lose to that, then that's just going to be just decimate your program. Like they're speaking in terms like that. Somehow this would like mentally hit us in the same way of like how not running Marshawn in the Super Bowl did, Brendan. And it doesn't add up to me. I'm not buying into this.
Right.
Well, let's look over at this matchup here, Brendan, and let's start with our offense first, if I may. And look a little bit first at this Niner defense. This is going to be information that we've, of course, covered with you guys just a couple weeks ago, but just as a refresher on this, the Niner defense is 22nd in rush EPA, that's on the bad side. Teams are passing on the Niners at the 10th highest rate in the NFL, despite, as we talked a couple weeks ago, the fact that they're giving up a lot in the run game. And as me and Brendan told you at that time, this means we're probably going to try to run the ball. We're not going to be like those other teams where we got to pass it. No, we can run the ball good against you, we'll just run the ball good against you. 31st in pressure rate, that is not good. 29th in most yards on average separation of routes. So they're allowing a lot of separation on the route running as well. Right. 23rd in time to pressure, 26th in pass EPA, Brendan, 27th in blitz rates. A lot of the Niner fans this week, Brendan, are trying to sell on the aspect of we're going to stack the box and we'll bring the blitzes. Like you didn't last 2 weeks ago. Like these numbers are all very similar to where they were from the last game. Like it wasn't like last game of the year they went extreme and it pushed the numbers across the board up in a certain way. These are numbers that are all in a similar place. Right. So it's just not really in the Niners' bag.
Yeah, earlier this year when teams tried to do that on Seattle, Darnold was beating them to death down the field too. So it's not like we have no experience against that.
We've also seen in the Coach Carroll defense, this is in a little bit of got the Coach Carroll defense to its inheritance. When that defense starts to try to blitz at a high rate, it's not really built to blitz. It's like kind of fish out of water sort of feeling when you start asking those guys to do a lot of it versus just kind of mixing it in every once in a while.
Right. I saw a little bit of it against Philly, but not a lot.
Yeah, just a little bit in there. They peppered in. 21st in yak in the league. So as well, on top of allowing a lot of separation in the route running, they're allowing a lot of yards after the catch as well inside of this. Boy, it's just a bad defense all the way down the line. 29th in stack box rate. They don't even stack the box, say nothing of blitzing. They are 3rd in light box rate. So they want to run a light box. That's where they want to live. That's how they want to breathe. They have teams running at them at the 5th highest percentage of inside runs in the NFL, and teams are running at the 29th percentage as far as outside runs. So teams hyper concentrating on attacking them on the inside. The reason being for this is that they employ the wide 9 scheme. And as I've said for years, the wide 9 scheme, it has all the defensive linemen basically stretched apart a little bit wider than you'll get in most alignments. And then this is going to open the door for A and B gap runs, downhill runs, to attack into those crevices and cracks, because then it becomes so much on the linebackers, as we've seen here, to then get in there and be able to make the play despite the lighter box, which we saw last week or 2 weeks ago against the Niners, Brendan, that's just, they don't have their prime guys out there to hold it down at that point. Even as 70% Fred Warner, it's going to be hard for them to just stop the run because they don't have the tactical, just showed those stats, they don't have the tactical pulls of the lever where it's, here's the blitzes, here's run blitzes. Like the Broncos run blitz on 1st and 2nd down 24/7. And it's to run blitz, then get to the quarterback. But it's a full-on run blitz. They don't even have that in their bag to do it. Do you see the Niners trying to pull that stride out, or did they just try to do what they did last time and do it better?
No, I think that even with that last game we played against them, as much as their defense did kind of get beat up in that game, they only allowed 13 points. I think that they, on some level, would say, we'll live with that and we'll hope our offense scores enough to win. And we'll just hope that we kind of do this. It's this really extreme bend, don't break style almost, where they just hope they'll be able to get the stops when they need it. And they hope they're able to get the stops in the red zone. And they're willing to live with the fact that they get run all over and they don't get pressure. It feels like they're okay with that. And they think they can just kind of win on the pivotal plays of the game, which is kind of what happened against Philly, right? Like Philly, that game really, to me, kind of hinged on the Niners getting off the field on a couple of 4th downs and forcing some field goals. So I think they're willing to live with that and just hope things work out. But I do think the right offense that is willing to stick to the run and just keep pounding it is going to be able to punish them.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's the commitment to the run thing is something that stood out from this wild card weekend action, Brendan, that every team that won in the wild card had over 25 rushing attempts or more. Every single one of the team that won. And all the teams that lost had less than 25 rushing attempts, with the exception of one being Philadelphia. And with Seattle, I went back and looked at it, Brendan. We only have 2 games this year where we don't have 25 rushing attempts in a football game. So, and one of those was a 24 rushing attempt game. So you are this is that thing I talk about where, you've been playing playoff football by your offensive approach in the back half of the schedule. This is exactly that through a lot of this year, because this is what this becomes in the playoffs. It becomes much more run centric, in that it can be that team that's able to just get the rushing attempts out almost can be the kind of the indicator of who's probably going to win the game. And it gives me a lot of confidence with this coming in, where we're at with the running game, that we're going to just absolutely, stay on that point here. I formation looks, especially, Brendan. We brought out a lot of I formation looks, offset I with Oots out there at times. It did seem like they were able to kind of hold the Niners in a pickle with that, because you're going base. So now as a Niner team, do you want to get out of nickel and then go to your base, right? And you're putting a extra defensive lineman on the line for 5 guys, or a linebacker like Bruce Irvin used to be as that Sam linebacker in the Carroll defense back in the day. But then watching the tape back of that, Brendan, a lot of times on that point that, okay, now if a safety does come up in the box because you're bringing the extra help there, now you got the single safety. And this is a game to me that really, I feel like Shaheed's going to get a big play in this game. I feel like it was kind of there in the last game. They just didn't feel like they had to push the envelope that much because they had such control of the game and the way it worked. But I think you end up with one single high safety. That safety is going to lean to Jackson Smith-Njigba. And this is the week where a guy like Shaheed should really be able to take the top of the defense off.
Yeah, this Niners team, because they are a little bit low on talent and they're not playing great right now, is probably going to have a lot of plays where somebody guesses, where the defense just kind of cheats up and just has to guess where the play is going. And if they guess wrong, there could be some really, really big plays here. And I mean, if it's Fred Warner out there, that's a guy who usually guesses right because he is such a good player. But if it's, Kendricks or who's the other linebacker, it's not Bethune anymore. It's
Waller.
Yeah. Or Wallow. What's his name?
Wallow. That's it. Not Waller.
Yeah.
Wallow. Right.
Yeah. Wallow, less so. And one of these days you're going to guess wrong and we're just going to hit that big play. And the Seahawks team has been winning just fine over the last several weeks without really busting a lot of big plays. So if the big play comes back, that's such an equalizer. You can work so hard to stop this Seattle team and play so well and keep it close, and then they bust a big play and it's over.
It really is. And I've been showing, of course, Brendan, this play from the last game over and over again, just because this is the one that to me has really caught my attention with this, because number one, you were playing a heavy amount of you were playing a heavy amount of I formation looks as it is. So right from the start at Brendan, you can see here, this is the exact situation I'm talking about with you, where you got the offset I formation. So fullback rather than straight behind the quarterback, offset a little bit. Shaheed and JSN out there, one tight end. So you just the 2 wide receiver set. This is a very traditional football kind of look, right? But that bottom side safety there, Brendan, see how he climbs up?
Yeah.
So he climbs up, and then you have Shaheed over the top. And then if you look at the other safety, watch the other safety to JSN. You see that?
Yeah.
And then remember the whole thing is, if he's even, he's leaving, right? Is he even there, or is he already leaving?
Yeah, I mean,
he looks like he's leaving to me.
Half a yard ahead.
Yeah, half a yard ahead. And this is you see Sam's head's concentrated on JSN here the whole way, and he ends up completing the ball to JSN. But if Sam's head turns there, that safety to the other side of the field can't get back over there. That high side safety, he's over on the far hash. So he can't, if Sam throws this and just throws as far as he basically can, that safety can't get back over there. That's game over to me. So I think this is the week that does come up. I think you can work it off the I formation looks, and you must have run I formation about probably 10 to 12 times in the last game. And especially if you have success running the ball with it, you're going to get that safety to come up in the box, I guarantee you, because they're not going to trust their front to be able to hold up, especially after last game, Brendan, as far as that goes. Yeah. Is there anything offensively that you think is very important about what they need to bring out here specifically?
Well, I think we need to see what's going on at that left tackle spot. Is it Cross? Is it Jones? Is it, God forbid,
Kite?
Yeah, Kite. And that's going to drastically affect how I feel about this game. If it is Cross, then I'm obviously feeling really good about that. If it's Jones, I think that's totally fine. This Niners team is not a team that can really get after the quarterback anyway. But, I'm thinking about that one play that Amari Kite played 2 weeks ago where we ran to the other side with him on the field. It was like 3rd and 2. We ran Charbonnet to the right, and everybody knew we were running right because everybody knew we were not going to want to run the ball behind Kite on his first play in 3 months. I'm thinking about things like that, like things that could throw off this game a little bit. So I definitely want to see what's going on there. But assuming that we have a relatively normal offensive line, an offensive line that can hold together and play normally, then I am looking to definitely test them down the field a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy with it because I feel like a big part of Seattle's dominance recently has been time of possession. And I want to win that time of possession. And big plays are great, but they do kind of help eliminate the time of possession advantage that you might have. Because if the Niners move the ball in this game at all, it's almost certainly going to be little bits at a time. So I don't want to get into a situation where even if Seattle is scoring, they're putting up 3-play drive touchdowns and the Niners are putting together 12-play drive touchdowns. I wouldn't be too worried about it because I don't think that Niners offense can actually hang over the course of a 60-minute game with this defense, and they can't score enough to keep up. But I don't want to get into a situation where they're just dominating time of possession because Seattle's drives are only taking 3 or 4 plays.
Agreed. I think you've got to your point as well in this, the Niners are playing their 4th game in 21 days, Brendan. 4th game in 21 days. You'd have 28 normally, So that's a team that's going to be tired. That's a team just traveled out to Philadelphia. So to your point, having that time of possession, lean into being able to you get them in the 3rd quarter and you've owned the clock a little bit. That tiredness is going to add up, especially with how thin they are.
And don't fall too much for that Eagles game either. I mean, Kevin Patullo, very, very simple offense that he's running over there. I understand that Seattle's offense isn't the most complex in the league, but Kubiak can do some things that Patullo clearly cannot, to get way more out of our talent than Patullo was getting out of his talent in Philly. So it's going to be something completely different. I think that Eagles offense is really easy to defend. It feels like they run 3 different route combinations and that's it. So it's going to be something completely different.
A lot of shade for Jalen Hurts coming out from what we're hearing with Philadelphia in that they still have to really run a very hyper rudimentary offense, not because it's the style that they want to play by, but because he can't do the things they want him to do from a complexity angle, according to what I've heard in the background on this. It sounds like you're sort of intimating the same thing on what you're hearing from Philadelphia to your point, to the difference of this, and that, Sam's not limited in that same way, I wouldn't believe.
Right. I think that we have learned some tough lessons about Hurts. And the thing to keep in mind in that game, the Niners got no pressure on him. So he had no pressure and he still couldn't move the ball down the field. That's pretty sad for a guy who was getting hyped up as a top 5 quarterback. That to me is disqualifying. You should have put up 40 points in that game with the pressure the Eagles were getting, the Niners were getting.
And this deep into his career, to be hearing that they're having to limit what they're able to call offensively, and does this now where some of the AJ Brown stuff comes from, and where some of the frustrations come out of that? We're running a rudimentary offense. Teams have figured out we're running the rudimentary offense. They're taking away stuff, and we don't have any other extra answers, but just this kind of one simplified thing. It's a little bit messy there right now with Philadelphia, but back to your point on this is just we're not going to be trotting out the same kind of offense that Philadelphia tried out there. And I did just feel like that from an energy standpoint. I can't point to something specific on this, Brendan, but I did just feel like from an energy standpoint, the Niners went out there, you felt it on the trick play. We're going to take this game. We want to go try to win this game. Felt like the Eagles kind of were doing this can we just play not to lose? Can we just kind of just get ourselves past the finish line? And that's kind of their style of ball sometimes and how they play, just enough. That's how I felt about watching that game a little bit.
I think there's a lot of people on that Eagles team that just want the season to be over. And certainly AJ Brown seems like he's one of them. And there are probably some other guys as well. And there have been a lot of reports over the last several days about how Saquon was really unhappy with the offense, and AJ Brown, of course, but also there was a lot of stuff going on with that Eagles team in terms of their dysfunction that kind of got washed over in recent weeks because they did play a little better and their defense was playing better, but that was a very dysfunctional team. We do have a little bit of an update here. So according to David Lombardi, Fred Warner is not practicing today. So he did practice a little bit yesterday and the day before. No practice for Fred Warner today. So I think we can probably put that to bed now. He's not playing.
I'd be surprised if they did on this. I mean, they're talking it up, and Fred maybe the only thing that gets me to the point of this, if Fred comes in and he pounds the desk on Shanahan, and you think about what this guy's done for you and the warrior he's been for you, and you're Shanahan there, and you got the doctors telling you one thing, and he's sitting there saying, "Let me play." It would probably be very hard if I'm a coach in that moment to be like, "No, we got to think about the greater good here." I just being real on if I'm in that position, you know what I mean, and you're in the heart of it a little bit.
Yeah, you got to protect the player from himself, though. And this is going to be one of those instances where I imagine that they probably will.
Maybe. It's like I said, that Russ thing twice over, man. That high ankle sprain, he talked Carroll through playing through the high ankle sprain. No quarterbacks would normally play through that. And then that broken finger that he tried to come back from and play on that, where he was nowhere near 100% obviously there. And they're like, well, I mean, yeah, Gino was a backup. You had a viable backup there, but like that vet that's got that sway in the locker room, I don't know. It's got me nervous on this part of it, I guess, Brendan, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll just have to hold on. We look at flipping this over to the 49er offense. We've got some similar numbers to what we saw from the prior couple weeks ago. Pressure rate 11th overall, so they're good about keeping the pressure rate off. Team rushing EPA is 15th, middle of the road. Brock Purdy's on the longer side and holding the ball does not bode well for him, and part of the reason we were able to create the pressure prior is that he's holding the ball for 2.94 seconds, Brendan. 28th, 27th in highest blitz rate against them. So Seattle is second offensively in what they deal with in the blitz rate the NFL this season. The Niners are very rarely blitzed. 28th in average target separation, so they do not create a lot of target separation on the route running. 26th in play action, which I don't understand why they're so low on that and why they don't, for being an outside zone team, why they wouldn't use that more. 15th in yak, middle of the road. 32nd in light box rate usage. So they have the lowest light box race usage in the NFL. And this is kind of one of those things, Brendan, where both sides, this does not bode well for them, where we both are a team that I think can run down and get downhill on you in a light box defensively. And then when you talk about our defense and how we operate from a light box, and that's how teams have tended to try to deal with you, it kind of goes into our strength, doesn't it, Brendan?
Right. And that's why I say this is the kind of rushing attack I think Seattle can thrive on. A rushing attack like the Rams, where they're all about having these big interior offensive linemen and running more power. That's the kind of running game that I think can get us a little bit. But this Niners rushing attack, I think we can handle, even if they were playing a little bit better than they are right now. I don't even know if it's a good rushing attack right now because, again, McCaffrey seems like he's out of juice.
He does, and they just aren't necessarily open in gargantuan holes either side. To Brendan's point on that, they're 24th in rushing inside percentage in the NFL, so just very infrequently they're going inside, but they are 12th in percentage of rushing to the outside in the NFL. So heavy usage, outside zone, bread and butter. Our defense has the methodology and approach to be able to stop that, Brendan. It's stylistically a good matchup for us in that way and how it sort of sets up here. When you look at this Niner offense the first time, you were able to create the pressure. You were able to squeeze down on the routes. Really stood out to me, Brendan, that maybe the best job we've done all year at, if they made a catch, you brought them down instantly. There was no extra yards after the catch. The guys were right there instantaneously to limit the yards. You got him in then because of that, a lot of third and long situations, whereas that first matchup, Brendan, it felt like they lived in 3rd and 3 all day long.
Right.
Second matchup felt like you're able to pull it to the other side. So this is one where I can't see a lot of different ways you approach this particular game from how you did it in the last game defensively. There's going to be some little iterations of stuff that you're going to trot out there, but fireman's it, 5-zone, five-man blitzes is probably what you'll see if they're going to blitz. We're not going to send a huge lot of the house. It'll be the light boxes. It'll be some press coverage on the outside with a little bit of man, which I like to see, Brendan, when I watch back the tape. They actually worked in a little bit of man coverage concepts out of press and to both sides of the field, because sometimes you'll get press with a hawk defender to one side and then off coverage to the other side. But they were going full press, full man. Felt like that made, like we got with the Carolina Panthers a couple weeks ago, it felt like that made things uncomfortable for that offense because they were just anticipating a little bit more zone from us.
Yeah, and that was something that Tet McMillan talked about after that game. They were not ready for us to play as much man as we did. Now, with the nature of football being a chess match, and with this being a chess match between McDonald and Shanahan, what do you think the answer from Shanahan is going to be, knowing that he had one of the worst games of his career as a play caller 2 weeks ago against this same defense. Like, well, what can he do knowing that he is now gaining possibly Ricky Pearsall and Trent Williams, but losing George Kittle? Like, is there anything you think he can do?
I think he's a little stuck because I think you came back to like talking about what they did in the first game, and what I come down, if I'm a Niner perspective on this, that's like it's a bit of the equivalency of what you talked about with us offensively, but even more so for them, being that controlling the clock and kind of owning the ball a little bit, keeping your defense as fresh as you can. Understanding this is what it takes to go at the Seahawks defense, is that they don't tend to give you shots over the top. I would embrace, if I was Shanahan, fully in this, how positive plays are great plays for me. I got to live in positive plays. I got to eliminate negative plays from our register on this. I might have to run a little bit more inside than we want to typically run, and try to lean on that more than we would. I've got to find a way within what I do offensive wise where I understand that this is going to be hard and grindy a little bit. And then if I can get into 3rd and 3 type situations in those 3rd and shorts, I can convert those. With Brock's legs, his legs come more than to life than when I'm in 3rd and 3s for his ability to scramble and go get the first downs. So I would just be less than, maybe initially on the surface, you go, Ricky's there and he was able to get over the top on Woolen in the first matchup. So, maybe try to do that again. But as well with Ricky, in that first matchup, you pressed him up with Josh Jobe at one point. And this is where we come down to Brendan, why, when it comes down to stopping this offense, again, just I want to show you this play again from the first matchup, Brendan. When it comes down to stopping this team, which of course I don't probably have it here. Yeah, never mind. The Josh Jobe play where you had Ricky Pearsall in the slot, Jobe goes up and press man situation. He runs a crossing route. Jobe's right there, jumps the route and gets an interception. Seahawks had got it to me, lean into that, make this team show they can get the separate. Like Juwan Jennings is a good contested catcher, but he's not a separator. He's not going to get down the field and take the top off the deep. Press down on this, give him the man coverage concepts. You still usually have the safeties on the back end in this defense to protect if they do go deep. But I would like to see more of that from the Hawks defense to counter. If you're going to run those short passing routes, getting the press coverage of the line, kind of chucking them at the line of scrimmage and getting them off that timing of that route a little bit can be so huge then for limiting some of those short yardage throws and the quick little passes into space. How about from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that you can possibly think about is that maybe Pearsall gives them a little bit of downfield speed that they didn't have last time. But I mean, how effective is he even going to be if he plays in this game? Is he going to have all of his speed? Because what we're talking about is finding some way to take the top off, because last time the Niners could not even really threaten down the field. Everything had to be like little chunks at a time. And it's so hard to score points against this defense when you're just moving the ball a little bit at a time, because you have to get so many things right in a row, and one negative play feels like it just kills your drive most of the time. So that's the only thing I can really think of, right? Because their ability to slowly move the ball down the field is also crippled because they don't have Kittle. I think Kittle's a big deal, especially to that outside zone rushing. So like you said, maybe they do a little bit more inside zone stuff in this game. Maybe they do pound it up the middle a little bit, trying to get those 3-yard, 4-yard gains. But that's not really the style of offense that they built there in San Francisco. And I don't know if they can effectively run it against the best defense in football on the road 6 days after they gutted out a tough game in Philly.
Yeah, it's the degree of difficulty is going to be still insanely hard, and it's never fun to have to deviate outside of who you are to try to find some headway, because you just know you can't make it over here and you can't make it over on there. A couple things that I think are specific to the offense, and just re-putting these back out from 2 weeks ago, because I think that they do still apply. I think that there's some specific things within this Niner offense defensively you're smart to concentrate on. I think these very things, Brendan, in the first matchup, you'll agree as we'll go through these, were things that you did a good job of limiting the Niners or forcing them into. And the first place is we took away the over routes in the first matchup. We took away the throws to the middle of the field. We said, okay, Brock, you're going to throw it outside the numbers to beat us in this game. And as you got your interception, for instance, on the tip ball, throwing it outside the numbers. Once again, in this game, Brendan, I think you got to force Brock to throw it outside the numbers. That's going to be a very important part of this process.
I like it. Especially with the receivers that they have, especially, they don't really intimidate me, right? Like if they had Brandon Ayuk, that'd be one thing, but without Ayuk, that receiver core has never really intimidated me this year.
Me neither. And it's missing a little bit of the speed. They don't have a Shaheed kind of component to that, which again, probably something they need. Probably something they need to address this offseason, but I just think that that gives you a little bit more confidence to be able to force them out there into that side of it and make them live out there, make them beat you out there, make Brock push it down the field and show that he can do that. Contain Purdy in the pocket. I think we did a good job in the last matchup of doing this and being able to generate the pass rush, but keep him contained as well. Don't get out of control in your pass rushing, which can happen at times in a Niner team where the Eagles had it happen a couple times where they just got a little bit too wild and loose in their pass rush to try to get home, and it allowed him a pathway to get out of the pocket. But I think they do a good job, Brendan, with especially those fire zone blitzes, the 5-man. You get the 4 to kind of force him up to where they want him to force, and then you have a guy to step in there to go get it. They did a really good job of capturing Brock climbing. Remember, there was the Derek Hall play. There was the Jaron Reed play. There's the Uchenna Nwosu play where he trips Brock up, coming back up into the pocket. So they were really, really smart about being aware of his climbing up and keeping him contained. And you've got to do that again this week.
Yeah, and I think that over the last several games, Leonard Williams has been a little bit less effective. I think he's worn down from the long season where he has played over 800 snaps and he played in every game. I'm hoping that bye week rejuvenates him and he's able to get more push in the middle of the defense, because I feel like that's been missing a little bit.
That would be nice. That would definitely be nice, because internal pressure is going to be tough pressure for Brock. You're giving him nowhere to go. Hands in passing lanes. This was one that makes me look very smart in retrospect, doesn't it, Brendan? Because Boye Mafe was hearing what I was saying. Niners passing attack is going to be short, precise. Me and Brendan are talking about what they're going to try to do. Probably try to work the short passing game and just get some positive yards. Not as much of getting an 8 or 9 or 10 or 15 yard gain. Go get me my 3 or 4 yards in a pass. Well, one way you can neutralize that is getting your hands up in the passing lane, because you're not going to have time to generate the pass rush. Boye Mafe did this in the last game. Got the tip. Throws outside the number, back to one of my other points. So both forcing the throw to the outside the numbers, getting your hands in passing lanes. These were all ones I put up on the last one, folks. So it was proven out salient, Brendan, because you got the tip, you got the interception, the game-changing play by getting your hand up. You got to do that again this week if they're going to go to that short passing attack.
Right. I'm a big fan of that one too, because again, even a play as simple as an incomplete pass on a short pass is able to kill a drive, because this Niners offense has to work so hard to grind out first downs because they can't push it down the field the way they might be used to.
Amen. Yeah. So it's vital if they're going to lean on that. You get your hands up. Tip passes, lead to interceptions. Take some risks with the stack boxes and blitzing. This was my prior one. I don't know if you really feel like you've got to do that coming into this game because of how much success you had. I think really it's the 5-man zone blitz, the 5-man blitzes that you run. You had the extra defender on there. I think there's some games they're able to run with that extra defender. You still got the guys in the back end to cover it up at that point. That had some good effect on the last matchup, but I certainly think at this point you don't have to necessarily go too hard with that in this particular game, because the offense just isn't as much of a test, it feels like, especially after we just played them last.
Right. And I think these edge rushers and defensive linemen are going to be ready to really generate a lot of pressure on their own, because they did get the week off and they haven't been the most effective generating pressure the last several weeks. So I think they needed that week.
Yeah, I could see it. And you're able to throw the waves at them. So you should be able to keep these guys pretty fresh within that. Buzz the over routes aggressively. This comes back to making him throw outside the numbers. Brock Purdy, on the majority of his interceptions this year, have come on over route throws. We had Ernest Jones pick him off on an over route throw in the first matchup. This is where he can be susceptible to the picks. This is also where they do the most damage offensively. So take it away, and you can maybe get an interception on the back of taking away, but take it away and you're forcing them to kind of play more of that left-handed, where they don't want to be living. So aggressively buzzing those over routes, finding some creative coverages within that to take that stuff away and make those looks muddled for Brock, I think would be a big deal here.
Yeah, I like this as well. Definitely try to take that away, and you might get another Ernest Jones interception. Been a while since he's had one, but his understanding of landmarks in zone defense is excellent, and I believe there's an opportunity for him to make another play this week.
Let them live where they want to live. Try to create confusion and disguise the looks. This is where I think you can play the 5-man zone blitzes. You can play with a little bit of the stack boxes here or there. I do like running some creativity up front against Brock, getting him thinking. This is a Niner offense built with how much pre-snap destination location finding can we do versus trying to go post-snap and figure it out on the fly. It doesn't want to live that way. So the more you can make it live, and this is within the Mike McDonald, of course, defense inherently and how it's kind of foundationally set up, how can I make them live in post-snap processing and then change that up? And that's the disguising, the confusion, Doesn't have to be a wild amount of stuff you're throwing, but that you're just not giving him, similar looks over and over again for Brock to get comfortable in rhythm and trust what he gets to see prior to the snap.
Right. And I think McDonald kind of learned that lesson after the Tampa Bay game, right? I think he kind of learned that I gotta be willing to take chances here, or else I'll just end up getting kind of pushed out of the game.
Agreed. It gets predictable if you're just going to go with the 4-man fronts and drop guys in coverage, and you got to be a little bit more stylistically creative than that. Intermix man coverage concepts, Brendan. I talked about it. I've seen some tape, 2 games of tape here on the Niners. Some of the best stuff that you've done against this Niner team and these Niners receivers is when you're playing man-based coverage concepts. So I build that in this week, utilize it, embrace it, make this Niner team prove that they can beat man coverage. They're not a great separating team. They haven't been, even when the best of times, Brendan, when they were even a couple of years ago, kind of somewhat the higher powers. They weren't known for being a great man beater kind of team from a receiving core. So make them do that here today. Press coverage, man, on the outside. I would love to see it.
Yeah, it worked so well last time, and it's something that seems like these opposing coaches don't expect because we've been such a zone-heavy team this year. So it's just another way to win the schematic battle.
Exactly. They're not seeing it coming. It's not the way you typically want to run. So when you do put it out there, it catches them quite off guard. And then risk the big play. This is back to the Shaheed thing. My last or risk the big play. Sorry, no, not Shaheed, but to defense. This is just to that point we just made about, look, I don't feel threatened by the receiving core. I don't feel threatened by their tight end position. I think we've proven we can keep them earning their way up the football field. I think that allows you to risk some things at times for the big play. You don't have to sell out. You have to do casino blitzes here. But the 5-man fire zone blitzes that you're running in the last game, especially to a decent degree, got no problem with dialing those up, man, and getting them uncomfortable. And at least it compresses the pocket. You that 5th guy up there does a better job of kind of keeping the containing of Purdy there in the pocket, if anything else. So I'm willing to risk some things here in this game. You don't have to go hog wild crazy. You can kind of feel them out in the early parts of the game and dial this up maybe more into the 3rd and the 4th quarter, but certainly don't want to act scared against this Niner offense when the threats aren't necessarily as much there for where they've been historically speaking with them.
Yeah, I guess one mitigating factor here would be Woolen, because he's showed up with an oblique injury this week. If he's in some way hampered and not able to go at full, that would intimidate me a little bit from putting him on an island. And even if he's out there, we know that he might not be 100%. Like if you look at Kyler Gordon on the Bears, that guy's been on the field for a while, clearly not himself, but trying to gut it out. So I definitely want to get an understanding of what Woolen is going to be at for this game before I commit to doing anything too crazy, because his play in recent weeks has been a huge part of what this defense has been able to do.
Well said, including that Niner game where he maybe played his best game of the year in that Niner game. So
yeah, he was amazing.
Hopefully he can bounce back. Any other specific keys to this playing this offense that you can think of that you think is very important?
I mean, at the end of the day, like I said a couple weeks ago, games like this are why McDonald is here in large part, because we stopped being able to handle that Niners offense with Carroll, and we looked at what McDonald did in Baltimore against that Niners offense, and I'm sure a big part of it was, hey, we want some of that. We want that defense in here. So this is the moment where you prove it. And we've been over this before, but in their history, Shanahan versus McDonald's usually come out on top. It's a good matchup for him. It plays to his strengths. It plays into Kyle's weaknesses. And other than the one game last year in Seattle, where again, we had DeAndre Baker, or whatever his name was, something Baker at linebacker.
Dodson and Baker.
Yeah, Dodson and Baker at linebacker, and
Rashawn Jenkins at safety.
Yeah, McDonald's done really well on Shanahan. One other thing to think about here is that ever since that week 1 game in Seattle, San Fran's special teams have been extremely good. Like they had a really bad game that week. They had a blocked field goal. They had a missed field goal. I think they had a couple other bad plays on special teams too. And since then, they've been excellent. So this is going to be probably the 2 best special teams units in football going up against each other. So don't expect to win out a big advantage there. And the special teams needs to be clean this week, or else you're going to end up giving up points on that end.
Yeah, it's a good point with it. I thought the Eagles did a good job of kicking on the kickoffs to Brian Robinson too. I'd like to see that as well. There's a significant difference between him and Sky Moore as far as the return ability goes from the kick returner. So, punt kick to him, that's a good sign of it. To your point on McDonald and what he's done as well, in addition to having those backups in there last year in that first matchup at home, Brennan, You were also, what were we playing, like 3 games in 13 days or something like that? 3 games in 14 days. And we had some injuries as
It
well, I
was
think, on the line.
something like that. It was something like that. And of course, no Eman Wari, no DeMarcus Lawrence, no Nwosu in that game either. He was out. It's not a fair comparison, but it is worth noting that is the one time Shanahan got the better of McDonald.
That is the one. And the thing that does stand out as we talk about how we're going to play him and what we're going to do when it comes to blitz rate, when it comes to, light box rate, McDonald has not really tried out a lot of different varied game plans as far as the base way that he's looking to go at this defense or at this offense of the Niners. So, he's basically kind of dialed up some similar stuff in that way of things, in that manner.
Yeah.
A couple donations here. DVN, thank you for the $5 dono. It says pressure on the Niners. Definitely feels like the 2019 Niners versus Seahawks, but roles are reversed. Said this before week 18.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you look at that Bills-Broncos game. The Broncos are the 1 seed, but it feels like the pressure's on Buffalo, right? That's kind of how I feel. Because that Broncos team is pretty young. They're going to be good for a while. They got Sean Payton. They got a young quarterback. And the quarterback hasn't gotten extended yet, and he's not going to get extended for at least another year. And that Bills team is obviously in a race against the clock because of Josh Allen's contract kicking in. So it is possible for a wild card team to have the pressure against a top seed in a playoff game. And it feels like that's the case here.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad to hear you're in the same outlook of this because there's so many people trying to hit me with this and again, it's mainly Niner fans, I think, are trying to hope that this can be a factor more than it will be a factor. But, they'll reference to me and they'll say, well, Washington, everyone thought Washington for years to come. And then it's like, that was an older roster that was living and dying on the back of Jaden Daniels getting that done for them. They were going to fall back down to earth. You could see that was going to be very much a possibility. So I just don't think the pressure's on us. And I think the DVN's right. I think this is where the Niners are at the end of a Super Bowl window. And that once this closes up, if this closes now, I mean, you go get a win today, you go get in the Super Bowl, maybe you can come back to Trent and McCaffrey and go, well, hey, one more year, you fall short here. Does it mean they're like, look, we're getting further away more than we're getting closer away from their perspective? And then if your body's tired, if you've made your money, if you're looking at like the chance to win is really looking small, those chances very much could be enough for a couple of those guys to retire. And at that point, man, you're really resetting the whole thing at that point. You're talking about being far away.
Yeah. There's no replacing Trent Williams. Like you could spend your first round pick on a tackle. You could sign the best tackle out there to a monster contract in free agency. You're not replacing Trent Williams.
No. I mean, maybe one of the best all-time left tackles, maybe the best all-time left tackle when it all gets said and done on that. So and then they got the Brock Purdy contract clicking in as well. So like that's $53 million per year is now starting to really hit in. So this is just where there's no pressure on us here. Yeah, we're the first seed. That doesn't instantaneously mean you got more pressure, especially when there's still so many people nationally that aren't yet buying into us.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to note here that even though we got the 1 seed, there are people, Seahawks fans included, who are like, this might not be the year. This might not actually be the big year. We might still be a year away from really having that big year where everything comes together. Now, I think that circumstance kind of dictates that maybe you still have to make sure that this year is the year because you're going to lose Kubiak and who knows what happens after that. But even as recently as like less than a month ago, I saw articles from Seahawks fans saying, hey, next year really might be the year. Don't get too hyped up on this year yet.
Yeah, agreed. And I can see why it would be because you have all the money to spend and you're returning almost everybody. And yeah, you might lose a coach, might lose a couple players here, but the cumulative is still so strong, Brendan.
Right.
Mumbles, thank you for the $10 donation, Mumbles. He says, I like Jesse just coping. This guy's just as good than that guy. Yeah, and Darnold's just as good as Tom Brady by that logic. Comparing a good player to a potential Hall of Famer. Sure, Jesse. Sure. Laughing out loud.
Yeah, I don't know what this reference is, so you're going to have to provide context.
Yeah, it's Jesse. Jesse is the guy. He does Last Second Sports, Niner fan, Niner content creator, and I work with him over there on the NFC West Roundtable. Mm-hmm. We've been having a long running debate going back and forth because he's very anti-Sam, and he's all the stuff that you've seen in your chat, all the stuff you've seen online. It's all the same stuff, right? From Ghost to he's going to fail in the big moment. And then when he doesn't fail in the big moment, they're just like, he'll fail in the next big moment. Well, not this big moment. It's got to be a big moment, but in the playoff game. But then with this, like, it starts becoming this like moving goalpost thing that goes on a bit when you're trying to have this debate with people on it. I'm sure you've encountered the same thing. And he's dug in, and he thinks this week Sam's going to lose it for us. He thinks this week Sam's going to turn into the pumpkin, like again, all the narrative stuff you've heard too, right? Like just you roll your eyes at this point. You're like, look, if this was going to happen, it would have happened by this point. We got 2 years of football here, you know, and
I'd argue Sam Darnold's never played in a big game in his career anyway. So I don't even know what a big game Sam Darnold looks like. He's played in one wild card round game. That's it. So,
well, that's what they take. They go, he's never, and then what they'll say is that he's never won a playoff game, Brendan. That's the thing they'll say too. Like, well, he's played in one playoff game. Like, it's some of this stuff. I get some criticism with Sam. It ain't that I'm thinking that he just flies on high here, Brendan. But some of the stuff is just where it's like, just like a little bit with the Geno stuff, where stuff feels a little like it starts to get a little bit like it's slanted in a fashion, or people are starting out with a conclusion, not trying to build the data to reach a conclusion.
Right. I feel you. And by the way, he could give the game away and we could still win. Like Rex Grossman made a Super Bowl once upon a time. This team is built to win without their quarterback having a great game. I know the Panthers aren't good, but a few weeks ago, we beat a Panthers team that did make the postseason by 3 scores in a game where Darnold was bad. Right. I mean, Darnold was kind of bad against the Rams a few weeks ago, and we still won that game against a team that a lot of people at that point thought was the favorite to win the Super Bowl. So this team is built to overcome a lot of stuff from the quarterback still. So I don't know why that would even be that big of a consideration.
People get hyper concentrated on quarterbacks thinking they're the end all be all. And to your point, it is about how great a team you can build, not just how great, but we're out of that superhero quarterback era. And this is part of that, is that people now look at it through the lens of everything is quarterback centric, rather than it's about, hey, build a great team, have a quarterback that can get the job done, and you can go get a Super Bowl. And there's many examples, of course, but I think people just kind of want to ignore that stuff and act like it didn't kind of exist. Sloby1, thank you for the $2 donation, Sloby. Says 5 billion to nothing Hawks. Come on. Let's go. I
like
can go
it
for that score.
That'd be hard to do. That'd be a lot to ask.
It'd be tough. That would be a challenge.
But I'm here for it. I'm down.
I'm down for it nonetheless. VB, thank you for the update and the $2 donation. Says Fred Warner did miss practice today. So interesting there. Yeah, interesting development. You'd think you'd want him running through the whole week of practice because he's just newly back to practice to get everything on point with that. So to have him rest, it makes you wonder, is the foot a little sore now today? Did they have a little bit of a setback there? Or are they just being careful? Or to your point, it does look like this maybe more lens to, okay, you're probably going to sit him here at this point at that.
Yeah. And like I said, Sherman on Twitter, I think this was yesterday, kind of threw some cold water on the idea. He basically said, yeah, Warner doesn't look good in practice. There's no way he's playing this week. And, Sherman's definitely somebody who's going to hype up something like that if he thinks it's happening. If he actually thinks Fred Warner's getting out there a week earlier than expected, I think he'd be very honest about that. But
unless he's serving double agent style. Yeah. I don't know with Sherman sometimes, man,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, he threw cold water on it, and now he's not practicing. So I've seen some stuff from a lot of the beat reporters. They basically said, yeah, we can stop thinking about this now. He's not playing. There's just no way. Maybe if he plays, maybe it'll be Willis Reed, right? Where he goes out, hits 2 jumpers, and then sits down for the rest of the game, which, that was a fun story, but why would you really do that with one of your best players?
I could see it. That's the other part where I think was wondering about, to your point on this one, Brendan, being that, do they bring him out for third down packages and he's the cover linebacker now, and then you get him to 15 snaps in the game or 20 snaps in the game for just those kind of moments? I kind of wondered if they try to do a little bit of that too, split the difference a little bit with this, but based on what we're hearing today, to your point back to this feed me, that it does look like growing slimmer chances of Warner actually playing.
Right.
Seth K. Aloha, thank you for the $10 donation, Seth. Very kind of you guys, as always on this. He says, excuse me, I'm burping here, Brendan. Surprised AJ didn't have a bigger impact in the last game. Seems like a big mismatch for the Niner linebackers without Fred. Also, just make the obvious call, Kubiak, like running the ball at the 1 on first down.
Yeah, that's going to be one thing that I'm really going to be focused on in this game, because if we don't have Cross and if we don't have Jones, then opportunities to score are really going to be few and far between. So you better not waste them. Like, you look back at that first game, it ended up working out, or the game 2 weeks ago, it ended up working out. But not scoring on that opening drive was a really, really brutal moment. And it ended up being okay, but that had better not happen this time. If I see 1st and goal from the 1 and we're not lining up in Barnyard, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, regardless of what happens at that point, because it's such a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's also speaks to a little bit of the fact that we've been so effective at running in the red zone. I mean, people have been pointing to Sam only throwing 8 touchdowns and 9 interceptions the back half of the season, but a big part of that's been you've got Charbonnet with 12 rushing touchdowns, you've got Walker with 5 or 6 himself.
Yeah.
You know, if you put those two guys together, I mean, that's a lot of rushing touchdowns. You're having a lot of effectiveness, a lot of those runs happening inside the red zone that you're getting those touchdowns. So yeah, I think you gotta just take the points, Brendan. We learned this, I think, from this last wild card weekend, and hopefully McDonald was paying attention to that as well. The analytic age has gone overdrive, right? Carolina going for a fourth down all the time. Bears going for a 4th down because of the Campbell influence to Ben Johnson, whatever the hell it is. It's gone overboard to me. And that if you've got a great defense and you have a defense you know can limit that opposition, take the points. It's like the Colts game 5 weeks ago, where it's like we took the points every single time. You end up winning that game 18-16. And that should be a game to McDonald that you want to get touchdowns, but it should also be don't turn down points. Don't turn down the opportunity for points with this defense. It'll add up. It's ultimately in your greatest benefit to do that. You don't have to go for the touchdowns, not field goals. Obviously, if a game declares itself, Brendan, you're in the third quarter, it's a shootout. This would change a little bit, but not when it's the first drive of the freaking game.
Yeah, or stay out of the situation entirely by just running Barnyard 4 times in a row, and you're going to get in. I just hope, because it felt like we barely ran that play in the second half of the year. I feel like I haven't seen it that much lately. So I'm hoping that now that we're in the postseason and things are for real, when the opportunities come up, we just take it. Because I'll say it again, I think that play is going to get banned in the offseason, so you better run it now while it's legal.
Amen. And you're right. I think we're one of the most, if not the most effective team at running it. They got also 4 false starts from Barnyard. He's got a good hard count that he puts into it too. So you got to bring it out this week at every turn that you can. And even if it's a third, if it's a 3rd and 2 and you're on their side of the field and you're going to go for it on 4th down, run it twice like Philadelphia does in those moments. Get your 1 yard and then get your 2nd yard and get your 1st down. I have no issue doing that in this game, and lean into it. One part of this that has nothing to do with, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, especially against this Niners front that is lacking beef on the inside. Like, what can they do to stop Barnyard? They've got nothing in the middle that can stop a Barnyard.
No, I think you can run it all day long on this defense. AJ is definitely a guy that should have a role here in this offense in this game. One guy that they have brought off of the injured reserve that they can activate for this game, but I'm not so sure I want to, and let's get your thoughts on this, is we've got Elijah Arroyo being back to being activated. And, I look at the last game against the Niners and what Saubert and Barner are bringing out there, and what you get with Oots now starting to click in as a run blocker, run blocking, especially with these 3 guys. And the thing with Arroyo, and we knew this going back to scouting him last year, he's a willing blocker, but he's a little light in the pants as far as blocking goes. He just doesn't have that strength at the point of attack. He was not well graded as a run blocker this year. Is it worthwhile to activate him for this piece in this game, and and then have maybe a guy in Saubert that you deactivate on that other side of it? I don't have confidence, I guess, in their ability to maximize Arroyo this year into thinking that that's worthwhile to do so.
I'm definitely not deactivating Saubert. Can you deactivate Collar Up? And
no, it wouldn't be the choice between him and that. It'd be you got to pick somebody that's like been active almost here, right? So it's got to be an Oots, or it's got to be, you're not going to do it with the offensive lineman because you need the extra kite out there for your deal. I mean, I'm sure you have all 3 of those guys. So you're like going one less defensive lineman, like a Riley Mills goes deactivated for a game like this, or, you got to kind of make the call on that side of it. And that's where I get a little touchy on this one, because part of me feels like part of the reason your run games come forward is because you're getting better edge blocking from those tight ends on the edge than you're getting from Arroyo. And then when you look at Arroyo going out of the lineup, the running game has come forward. I also don't like the fact that this team never really had much of a plan for Elijah throughout the course of this year, Brendan, and that they didn't really know what to do with him for a large part of this season.
Yeah. I do wonder if maybe having a tight end with some speed and athleticism would be nice for mismatch stuff, even if you don't use them a lot. But you're right. We have to figure out who we're deactivating because of that. Are we deactivating Riley Mills would be a reasonable candidate? Are you deactivating Was Pat O'Connell active last time we played? Could it be him? Could it be Nehemiah Pritchett? That's kind of the question, because one thing that I said last week, and I think this still applies, now that we're here in the postseason, I think that it will be the preference of this team to not lean on their rookies as much as possible. Like, of course, you're going to have to lean on Zabel. Of course, you're going to lean on Nicky Manwari, because those guys have been so good for you and they're starters, so you got to rock with it. But a guy like Arroyo and a guy like Horton, if those guys were healthy, I don't know how much they'd play, because they're rookies and we have veterans that can play in their place. I think that this team, like most teams, would say we want our veterans out there right now.
I would think the same thing. And so I'm a little worried here. You mentioned like Pritchett, and we go back to Woolen's oblique. It's like, okay, Woolen can't go all the way through the game. Josh Jobe gets injured. Now you don't have Nehemiah Pritchett active. It's like shades of the Marcus Burley situation in the Super Bowl, right? Where you didn't activate your nickel. You had then Thurl Simon out there for the whole game. Like, is that worthwhile to put yourself in that risky of a situation for what then Arroyo brings? And I just kind of feel like a little bit at this point, there's a little bit of this still lingering effect of Arroyo of, because he's a second round pick, this is somehow driving some of this, because they just have not had much of a plan for him on the field. He's not a particularly good run blocker. His injury situations come back, and you face that again after we knew we were going to be potentially having to face this with him coming out of college. I like the kid's top end for the future here, but this is real deal time right now. This ain't like go and figure some stuff out with the guy and get him acclimated into the playoffs. I love him as a weapon, I do, but frankly, you should have done more throughout the course of the season to have more of a tangible plan in place versus trying to figure this out at this time of year in this kind of game against this kind of opponent.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, is he even 100%, right? It seems like he's close, but how can you ever really be 100% when you've missed over a month of football? So it doesn't seem necessary. I like the idea of having a more athletic tight end as an option, but we found such a good formula here with just running the ball with Barner and Saubert. So it definitely does feel like you're maybe a little better off riding with what you have. But again, the question is, should he even be active? And to me, that just depends on who you have available to deactivate. And I'd have to think about that. I'd have to look at the roster and see, can we afford to not have somebody like a Brady Russell? Can we afford to not have somebody like a Cam Akers?
Mm-hmm. It's true. And maybe that's the route they go with it with those guys on it. We'll just have to see. But I'm guessing, having them practice, their intention is probably to activate him based on what we're seeing from their intention. Ethan with a $5 donation on your side is, thank you for that, Ethan. If the Raiders hire a defensive head coach like Saleh or Flores, does that make a Crosby trade less likely?
Maybe slightly, but it still seems inevitable at this point. Like he's visibly and verbally mad at the organization for the way they treated him at the end of the year. They're the worst team in the league. They've got very little blue chip talent for a team that bad, right? They've got Gentil and what else? Bowers.
Bowers is it.
I don't even know if JPJ counts, because JPJ seems like they're not that interested in him.
They may trade him this offseason. No, that's it. That's they moved everything off. Aside from that,
like to me, it's such a no-brainer to get what you can for him right now that I feel like the coaching hire doesn't make a big difference. Like the Raiders just went through this with Pete Carroll. They probably should have traded Crosby last year. They didn't, probably because Pete was banging the table saying, no, I want this guy. We can win right now with this guy. Let me have this guy. And look where it got him. It got him in a situation where they're going to get less for him now. So do you really want to repeat that again? Do you really want to fall in that same cycle of crappiness? I don't think so.
I think it's a really good point on your part with the Pete thing. And I think that that's exactly how it played out, as far as, especially even at the trade deadline, where I think that even they wanted initially, no. And then they're losing, and then they're halfway in the year, and Pete's like, no. And I think that now they come back and they go, look, we failed at this twice when we should have done it. Now we definitely have to do it. I also don't think that a defensive coordinator in there that's as smart as Saleh or Flores is going to look at the situation and say, I have to have this guy for my defense to work right, versus, like you said, look, we got to start stacking some talent in here, and we got to find a way to accumulate talent fast. And that's got to be at a variety of positions, more than just having one difference maker, especially the one asset we have that we can move to accumulate those assets. So I just don't think so, Ethan, at this point. The way the season ended up, back to Brennan's point on that, sort of puts the stamp on this to me with, him wanting to play, you're not allowing him to play, him pissed off about that. No future, the future's starting to wind down for him. His timeline's starting to wind down as far as career. He's going to want to have a sense of urgency on this one. I think they get the deal done. Somewhere or another, they get the deal done.
Yeah, and remember, the coach they hire is not going to be the decision maker here. It's going to be Spy Tech.
Right, exactly. So don't think it'll move the needle there. Gregory Campbell with another $5 donation on your side. Jesse sounds like SAS, Stephen A. Smith. He gets the most animated when critiquing Darnold. It's cope because deep down he knows his Niners Super Bowl window has closed. I love that, Gregory. I love that, man. And yeah, I do think that it's strange how dug in he's gotten with Sam. And Brendan, I know you're out of, not necessarily in school on this one, but it's been for like a year, this whole year with him on this, where it's just like, and he hammers the hell out of it, and that it is just like you've seen the same thing in your chat. You've seen the same thing out there. They speak in these terms of ultimates when it comes to Darnold, as though they have some sort of internal look into his heart, internal look into his brain, because it doesn't become down to like a physical limitation thing. It always comes down to there being some inferred mental deficiency that will hold him back when it really counts, right? I don't really buy into that in a quarterback myself because I just haven't seen many examples of that. It's something that does get talked about as a common thing, as a thing you'll find in normal in some quarterbacks, but I just don't think it is. When these guys, train as hard as they do and they put the work that they do in, I don't think that mentally guys that are this many years in the league have that they fall prey to. Where's your side on that?
Yeah, it's an abstract thing, and abstract things are really hard to quantify. So I understand why they go to it because it's kind of nebulous, right? You can't really define it. You can't really put your finger on it. And you can't really argue against it that much until the player wins a Super Bowl, right?
No, you can't.
Yeah, and what I can say is that I know that Sam Darnold's better than the quarterback that won the Super Bowl last year. So in my mind, even if you're not that high on Sam Darnold, and look, there are some defenses out there that can probably give Sam Darnold a hard time. I've talked about how the Rams defense, the way they play with their stunts and twists up front, is not a great matchup for him. But this Niners defense in particular that can't get any pressure on anybody. And remember, last week they were playing a third string right tackle in Philadelphia because the Eagles didn't have Lane Johnson or his backup, and they still couldn't get pressure. That's not the defense that's going to be making Sam Darnold have a hard time of it.
No, it's not. And you're right about this. It isn't about saying with Sam that, he can't have defense that'll give him a hard time. The whole discussion started out with the point of Sam Darnold's a top 10 quarterback. This is the start of the year, Brendan. This is what I was saying. Top 10 quarterback. And a top 10 quarterback can win you a Super Bowl, as referenced by having happened 5 times over the last 13 years in the NFL. And his whole point to that, of course, is just, well, he's not a top 10 quarterback because he hasn't won a playoff game or done this. But then Jesse will be inconsistent too, because this is the other thing I see with this thing with Darnold for folks that are anti-Darnold, Brennan. If you start trying to probe for consistency, so if I bring up a name like Justin Herbert, he'll go, well, Justin's magnificent. He's the 6th best quarterback in the sport. I go, hold on. You see what I'm doing there? Where's the metric at on this one? Where does what's the line that we're judging this on exactly then? Because he's had multiple performances. He's looked worse than Darnold has. So not that I don't think Justin's actually a pretty good top 10 quarterback. I do think it, but it's just that supporting cast matters. And people don't want to really think about supporting cast and how this affects and funnels on down to the QB position. Instead, they want to think of it like the QB's on high and sort of operating above it almost, like he's just completely immune to that. He gets to do whatever he does and nothing that's happening around him has any real effect.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't get the thinking.
So the Seahawks have released their game statuses just in the last couple minutes here.
Okay.
And there's a big surprise on there. So let's go ahead and talk about it here real quick. So only 2 players have a designation. So everybody that I don't mention is good. Josh Jones is out, so he's done.
Okay.
And questionable, 1 player, Sam Darnold, with an oblique injury.
What the hell's going on in our practices? What is going on in our practices? They got to be messing with the Niners here, right? Like just trying to get him to look at Drew Lock or something before the... Are we going to get the Milrow package this week, Brendan?
You would hope so. Like, there's no way he misses this game. Like, this is, there's no way he misses the game. But I do wonder. I do have to ask what happened. because
do you get him
obviously
to?
this was not a thing yesterday. Let's see here. Greg Bell tweets, Sam Darnold is now questionable to play for Seahawks Saturday night versus the Niners. New oblique issue. He's got a video of him using a Theragun on his side and saying nothing to see here on the practice field. Oh, yeah, I see him, with the massage gun they have now, the Theragun. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder what happened. But
What is going on with this team, man? Woolen and Darnold and Cross. I know you guys are practicing hard, but like, how does the quarterback get hurt on a freaking bye week?
Yeah. Okay. No game status for Cross, so he's good to go. So that's good. That's good.
All right. No
status for Woolen, so that's good.
Jesus.
So very short injury report, but potentially very impactful because that's a curveball that I don't think any of us expected.
No.
Yeah, Kubiak was asked about Darnold and said, "I'll let McDonald talk about it." So Kubiak had no comment really, but we'll see what McDonald says later.
Okay. Jeez. I hope everything's all right there. That changes this. I'm certainly think Drew Lock can still win it, but yeah, it's Brennan. Check out the hat that I put in Jesse on the emoji here. By the way, look what I stuck him in there.
I did hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It actually got up on the Seahawks Reddit, which I found hilarious. Like they were posting a picture of him in that. I thought that was very funny.
Pretty good.
Daniel Bailey, thank you for the $2 donation. Says we will the Super Bowl, and they will say we'll win the Super Bowl, and they'll say it was despite Sam. I could see it happening, man. Especially if it's not him doing like 2 or 3 touchdown passes, that they'll fall back on that. And the bottom line of that is I won't care because the whole argument was proven true at the end of the day of this. And that's where I think sometimes the Sam thing, that's why I go back to the original point on the original argument, the original debate to me to other people was he's a top 10 quarterback. Top 10 quarterbacks can win you a Super Bowl. We can simplify all of the complexity of this down to just that bottom line terms of it. And if you go win a Super Bowl, and he's played at a top 10 performance this year, which he has unquestionably played as a top 10 quarterback in this sport this year, then it's been proven. Like the rule's been proven multiple times over the last 13 years. And the people can at that point try to deny it, but they are just denying reality at that point. And we got a Super Bowl at that point, so they can do all the squawking they want. We're hoisting the trophy, and it is what it is at that point. Seth K. Aloha, thank you for another $5 donation. Seth, appreciate your support today. Purdy has 4 less interceptions than Sam while playing 8 less games, yet Niner fans like Jesse will die on the hill that Purdy doesn't have a downside.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that's kind of understated about this game and the Niners offense in general. Purdy's got his own turnover problems right now. He's actually got a higher interception rate than Darnold over the second half of the year. And I think it's the identical interception rate almost over the season. It might even be a little bit higher. The main reason why the Niners were able to not have a huge turnover negative margin was Mac Jones was pretty clean in his games.
Yeah, it stands out to me when you look at the interceptions league this year. Interceptions are kind of up. It's hard to play the quarterback position more than ever before. There's 15 quarterbacks, Brendan, with 10 interceptions or more in the NFL this year. And when you consider the injuries that happen in the quarterback position, right? Like if all of the teams that had their quarterbacks playing all this year, like Sam's played with all the games, you're probably going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of like 20, right? Is that a fair assessment from your standpoint? If you had, if you take the, like you're saying with Mac and Brock and you kind of combine them up on this, now you're kind of getting to that spot. So, this is a time where interceptions are a little bit higher than ever before. The Sam interception numbers are very much juiced up by that Rams game, because since that Rams game, even when they say the 8 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions through the back of the schedule, it's like, well, 4 of those interceptions came in the one game, and he cleaned up a lot of that moving forward. And what you'll notice with them is that now they'll start to try to pivot off the interception. They'll say, well, it's a turnover problem. It's not an interception problem, because he's right around the regression of the mean of the league when it comes to the average of the league with the interceptions. So this is where I say that you can feel in the debates with Sam, people are starting out from a conclusion and then working the logic backwards to fit it. They're not starting out from, let me take all the data in and then reach a conclusion. And this kind of stuff, shows that, because we come back to there being a lack of consistency in the people's argument. What's good for Sam is not going to be what's good for this guy or good for that guy. I'm just going to put this one metric, this particular metric, only on his shoulders, and I'll not assess anybody else under the same kind of lens. And that's where I think it's completely unfair to Sam and also just completely wrong.
Right. And the thing to keep in mind also is on Pro Football Focus, Darnold has 19 turnover worthy plays this year and 20 turnovers. So he's kind of getting unlucky here. Objectively, it's the same thing that Geno had last year. Geno last year had more turnovers than turnover worthy plays. That is very rare. And it is indicative of a very, very bad luck season in terms of turnovers. So to me, I look at that and I think to myself, yeah, there might be a little bit of a problem here. But at the same time, you look at earlier this season, and even with the recent weeks, this still applies. He was one of the best downfield throwers in the league this year. So you got to be willing to take the good with the bad. And one thing that I've hammered this year, turnovers are not that big of a deal as long as you're making big plays and scoring points along with the turnovers. And we set a franchise record for points this year.
We did that. That's the bottom line to this, Brendan. Whatever you want to pick about the turnovers or not, if you're scoring points like that, then I can fully do the cost of doing business on that. Very good point on your part. Santiago, thank you for the $5 donation. Says Darnold just got listed as questionable with an oblique per Ian Rappaport. Kind of freaky. I'm just gonna make my peace with Brendan. What's happening here is Mike's like, oh, you guys are playing the Fred Warner game. You're not really trying to have him play, but you want us to prep and make us think that he's going to play, but he's not going to play. Oh, we'll do that to you too. How about that? Oh, Darnold's got an oblique. Hey, Darnold, put some stuff on your side with the reporters out here so you can, I'm going to want to believe it's that.
The NFL got rid of the probable tag several years ago. So they can't do the thing that they used to do. Remember, Belichick did this with Brady, where he listed him as probable every game for like 5 years or something. Yeah, like that's how you used to do it when you were trying to express your annoyance with the league for making you report injuries. Now, I guess you got to take it to the next level and make the whole fan base have a heart attack every week.
Well, Mike does play a little bit of that play it sly game when it comes to injuries, right? He gets asked about it on the pressers at times, and he's like, maybe not. He does a little bit of that game where you're like, okay, I see what you're trying to do. It's like an advantage thing you're trying to build. I don't know if that's what's at play at here on this, Santiago. Obliques suck. Obliques can definitely hold back guys out of games. Derek Hall missed a couple games with an oblique. So not only does this potentially put you up for favor of missing this, but if it's a bad one, you're going to maybe be missing multiple games and not getting back to potentially a Super Bowl at that point. So that would definitely be not good if that's the way it is. Hopefully they can just give him a shot at Toradol. He just finds a way.
Kubiak did say that Locke got a couple reps with the ones today, so they are at least open. They seem at least somewhat open to the possibility. And I mean, I can rock with Locke for a little bit here, but I don't know if we can get to where we want to get to with him. I do think there's a significant difference in the level of play that you can expect to get.
Lock at home against the Niners, this Niner team, he can win this game. But Rams next week, I would have significantly less confidence at that point if that's the matchup you got to face, especially with Sam. You think Sam's got a bit of a turnover problem? Like Locke's throwing a couple picks against that Rams team if he's got to start. So
and that Bears team that is the best in the league at forcing turnovers, you've also got to think about that too. Even though they're not really a good defense.
That's as well true. I do think though, just the Rams are going to find a way to take. They're going to find a way to get that game done to me. I'm one of those people. I think the weather actually works against the Bears in this case for how the Rams play and their commitment to running the ball and their commitment to running the ball inside. Brendan, like that's in snowy conditions or in tough to footing conditions. Those are the type of offenses that can find success, and they're just naturally built to be like that, along with Stafford's arm to make every throw in the book out there. So I don't know if I don't see it neutralizing. Do you? As a neutralizing factor for the Rams?
I don't think they like it. I think they'd rather have the game be in good conditions.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Definitely that. Yeah. They definitely
there's a firm track record of good weather teams not faring well in bad weather games, especially this late in the season. It's a little too firm for me to dismiss it. Yeah.
No, it's a good point. It is a good point on that side of it. And Stafford's track record, though, a lot of it's built on Detroit. It's not great playing in those kind of conditions throughout his career necessarily. So we'll see how that one goes. Thank you again, son.
So Fred Warner will not be activated per Kyle Shanahan. So no Fred Warner. We know that for sure now.
Okay, there we go. So a little bit of they got us worried for a little bit there, but it sounds like not happening there on that. So that does change the scope of this game versus if Fred was able to come back. And you never know with that, Brendan. Guy comes back and there's a little bit of some refreshed aspects to them, right? Like maybe they're foot healed a little bit faster and they actually feel a little bit refreshed. And, I think back to like Terrell Owens coming back for the Super Bowl after the broken leg and came back and he was effective in that Super Bowl for the Eagles.
Oh yeah,
and
very.
he was able to do something. So I was a little bit concerned on this one where you never quite know how every person heals, differently on this. And that, that could have been a factor in this if you were able to bring him out there, but not him being out there. That's going to be a hard day at the office of this Niner team, I think, to figure this out.
Yeah. Jair Brown is out as expected, by the way. So they did declare that out. And we got 3 players that are questionable. Pearsall with the knee, questionable. Luke Gifford, who is a backup linebacker, questionable. And D. Winters, also with an ankle, is questionable. So with Fred Warner not getting activated, the fact that they're missing some of their depth linebackers is actually kind of a big deal potentially. So they can't love that.
No, that puts him in some tough straits. It definitely means you're going to get Kendricks and Wallow probably out there if he's still in that questionable state with Winters being where he is. And they're going to be starting a couple of, rookies out there as well. Alfred Collins will be starting out there. CJ West will be starting out there. Siegel will be starting out there. So just on that defense alone, you're looking at 3 rookies trying to hold it down and make it happen, which in the playoffs, that could come back into factoring here as well. But that's a big update. No Warner. That's a very, very big, very big update to this game. Even if he was in there as a sub package player, Brendan, on passing downs, is that in that line again could be a bit of a problem versus what they're going to trot out there. And Kendrickson played well and Waldo played well last week, but night and day difference from where they've been in recent years there with Greenlaw and Warner both out there at the same time at times. Devastating, combo. Thrill House, thank you for the $2 donation. Thrill House says, any chance this could be a game 1 49ers game?
What does this refer to?
This could be a game 1 49ers game. I think he means the first game of the season.
Oh. I mean,
is that what he's...
Yeah, there's a chance of pretty much anything. Like, anything is possible. I don't really know how to address this question because, that's just the nature of NFL football. Pretty much any outcome is on the table.
I think when it comes to their offense, Thrill House, I think that this is what they're going to try to accomplish offensively like they did in the first matchup, which is just piecemeal our way up the football field, embrace the patient approach, embrace the slow roll approach, control the clock. Defensively, they can't do what they did in the first game. There is no Bosa, there is no Warner. And those 2 guys had a very substantial effect in that game, in my opinion, especially Warner. And that the loss of those 2 guys alone, on top of no Michael Williams in that first game, he's a big factor, not as a pass rusher, but in helping to stop the run in that first game. So, they're down some significant bodies on that defense to where I just don't think they can bring up what they were able to do in that first matchup and keeping you down to 13 points. I know it was 13 points in the second, but that was as much of we only punted once in the second game.
And 0
Our offense
turnovers,
was very good. And zero turnovers. Our offense was effective in the second game.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think defensively they can do it, but offensively, Thrill House, they could carve that up. They could find a way to just kind of, just chip away at the defense a little bit, get the first downs, control the clock. It's the modality of the Niner offense. It's how they are set up to design to be. They're not necessarily a big play West Coast offense. They are a we'll earn our way up the field kind of West Coast offense. Jay Melfair with a $2 donation as well, worried. And I know there's some concerns out there, folks. Yes, we have heard. And thank you. So just saw the press conference. Any Darnold news? Well, we got no updates as far as the Darnold goes, as far as anything outside of it's now questionable. Oblique injury has come up. How serious it is or what Darnold's going through, we don't quite know at this point. So we'll have to wait until we get from Mike McDonald an update here on the presser today as to how serious this really is.
Yeah, it is definitely a wrinkle here. I mean, he did practice some today. He was seen on the practice field, so it's not like he missed practice. Maybe he slept on it funny, that could be a situation. They saw him using the Theragun, but apparently he was using the gun on like his shoulder, not really the oblique area too. So it's kind of like weird. Like, what does that mean? There is some reason to believe they're just messing around, but they did give some reps to Drew Lock with the first teamers today. So there's some reason to believe that they think it's at least a possibility that Drew Lock becomes important. So I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see here. And look, I mean, this team has won without getting a lot from their quarterback several times this year. I'm not saying they can't do it again, but I mean, if for no other reason than that's our quarterback and he's going to be our quarterback for at least another X period of time, I'd like to have my quarterback out there just so he can get the monkey off his back potentially.
Yeah, I would too as well with Sam, and I think that they are kind of just maybe messing around here a little bit more than anything else. So we'll just have to see, what exactly is going on there. But Drew Lock, this is the reason that you gave him a 2-year contract, and that this is a guy that has been in the league a long time. It's not a Max Brosmer situation in Minnesota. It's not even a Carson Wentz situation in Minnesota. You have a guy that's capable of being able to execute this offense, come out there. You're going to run the ball a lot. You're going to have your passing attempts down to a minimum if he's out there starting. He's got a big arm. He can make every throw in the book. So while it is concerning, it's more of a concerning to me on a long-term basis on this throughout the rest of this playoffs, potentially more than it's a concern on just this particular game. It's not, I don't love it for this game, but it's more of, okay, if I got to place the Rams with Locke, this is where we could get a little bit, this thing's where things could get a little uncomfortable really quick. But we'll get an update today and we'll find out from Mike.
All right. So Sam Darnold just had his press conference, said he felt something during routes and didn't want to push it. Played it safe and got rehab during practice, says that he plans on playing.
There we go. Okay.
Again, the NFL got rid of the probable tag. I think you'd see the probable tag come out in a lot of these situations if the NFL still had it.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. So probably plays. If me and Brendan were betting men right now, we'd be putting on that he's going to play and he's going to find a way. But still, I can understand why it's got some.
Does he play well? I guess the question is, does he play well? That's a little less clear because, again, that Niners defense is not good. That pass rush is especially not good, but you still got to be able to physically make the throws.
You do indeed. And if he's limited in that way, I would prefer they'd put Drew out there if that's something that's going to be holding them back on that front. He doesn't need the extra of difficulty with that. You could beat this team with Drew at 100% versus trying to play with Sam at 70%, which I just don't think that's going to work as well. So
yeah, Darnold
trust
says
the coaches.
Darnold says there is close to 0% chance that he won't play. Now that's
there
Darnold
we go,
saying
folks.
That. So
there we go. We're all right. He's playing, folks. We're good. He's all good. So we got perfect timing there, Melfair. Got your update right there at time. Brendan's on it. Industry Worth, thank you for the $10 donation. Appreciate you for that, Cal. So much. Very kind of you. Hope you're having a good day out there. And no note in there, just a don't know. Appreciate it. Feed Me, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, don't forget, Sam Darnold had an oblique earlier in the season. I didn't know that.
I don't remember that. Are we sure that's true? I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either there, Feed Me. I'd have to look that up, but I don't quite remember him having the oblique. I thought he's been pretty healthy throughout the whole course of the year. But maybe it popped up a look. If he's going to play, he's going to play. And I'm sure if it was something that was really, the oblique is one where we've seen it from running backs like McCaffrey last year to Derek Hall this year. It does seem to be one where if it is a serious one, it's going to hold you back. And especially to that side, trying to throw the ball. I mean, that's all torque and winding and you're activating that oblique. So it's one where if it's that bad, you're not giving it a go. It is what it is at that point. So I'm guessing it's got to be on the mild side and he's just trying to be hyper careful with it.
Yeah. Now is the time to be careful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and let's focus on the bright side here. No status for Cross, no status for Kobe Bryant, no status for Woolen. Like, it is a pretty clean injury report. It just is unfortunate that one of the things that got listed was the big one.
Yeah, it just gets people nervous, but you're right about that. You cannot ask for this team to be in a more healthier shape than they are at this time of the year, where you stand on both sides of the ball. You're trotting out literally now your entire starting defense, your 2 backup edges, you got interior defensive tackles, you got a backup linebacker you can throw out there, you got a backup safeties you can put out there, you got depth at cornerback. Say nothing of offense being in an equivalent state, Brendan, where literally every starter, with the exception of maybe a Horton, or even getting a Arroyo back at this point, multiple tight ends deep, fullback deep. So you can't ask for it being better. Nobody's going to be 100% coming in this time of year. To be at this stage where they're at, it gives them as good a chance as any, Brendan, in my opinion, to going out there and getting the win, going to the Super Bowl, I think, because of this health situation.
Yeah. At this point, I think we can safely conclude that Locke got reps just because Darnold was getting some cautionary rehab. So even that part of it, I think we don't have to really be alarmed by.
Yeah, I agree there. Hand grenade, thank you for the $2 donation. Says Mike McDonald's just trolling at this point. Maybe so. Maybe just having a little bit of fun with it. Sam's being careful, but maybe a little bit of fun, little turnabout play to the Niners, the Fred Warner situation there. Hand grenade. Thank you for the $2 donation. Dio Brando, thank you for the $2 dono. Says Niner clowns in here celebrating the injury. Not cool. Well, I think it just shows you how much their disrespect to Sam, and they're thinking of Sam's not this threat. They actually do think he's a threat, because you wouldn't be celebrating the injury. You'd want Sam out there playing if you thought he was such trash, right? So which is it? Is he trash or are you actually scared of him? You know?
Yeah, it is an interesting question. But I mean, you can think that Darnold's not very good and still think he's better than Drew Lock. And if Drew Lock was better, he would have been starting all year. So I get it, but
That's true.
You're correct.
Yeah. Well, and Niners are hoping on whatever they can hope on, especially the Fred Warner news at this point. So they're a little desperate, Dio. A little desperate, those Niner fans right now looking at this matchup here.
Yeah, especially with the Niners having just played in the game and the Seahawks coming off the bye week, even though the bye week may have not done them a lot of favors.
Well, especially with the injuries. Jesus,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we went through a game. We've had less games, less injuries than what we come off these bye weeks with, Brendan. It's like, oh my God, no more bye weeks.
I guess.
Practices are going too crazy. Daniel Bailey, thank you for the $5 donation. Hawks are playing 4D chess. Once we win this game, we'll be able to say Sam Darnold was able to win his first playoff game despite being injured. Laughing out loud. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, there we go, huh? There we go. Make it a little extra special because you can kind of come back and be like, oh no, and he did injured. What are you going to say now? What now? What now?
Yeah,
thank you,
I
though,
like it.
Daniel. And that's 5 on your side over there. Very kind of you, man.
Thank you. Sounds good to me.
Wu-Tang Financial, thank you for the $5 donation. You folks are kind as ever on all these donos. He says, Ginger Cuz just wanted to get their hopes up in Santa Clara before sending them to Cancun. Playing with their emotions. This team is ready to cook. I love it, man. Let's go. Let's go. I maybe there's a little bit of just gamesmanship here. You never know with this type of stuff. And like I said, Mike does play that game with the whole like, is he starting this week or not? Is he healthy or not? I don't know.
And
Ask me another week.
Shanahan certainly does too, right? Like he was trying to convince everybody Trent Williams would play 2 weeks ago, and we all knew he wouldn't. And kind of with Fred Warner this week, although I feel like Shanahan was even a week ago came out and said, yeah, we don't think he's going to be able to play this week. And then I think Fred Warner was kind of pushing it a little bit more, and obviously didn't happen. But Shanahan does that a little bit. So I imagine most coaches do it at some point. Why wouldn't you? Anything you can get away with.
Every advantage on the table, take what you can. You know, don't leave any advantages that are possible for you to use. And if team's got to prepare for a certain player that you're not intending to play, that's less practice time they can play and put on players that are playing. So there's some understandability in why they would want to roll this as well. But I love it, Wu-Tang. Hopefully you are right on that. Ginger Cuz gonna go get his today or tomorrow, 2 days from now. Cetus, thank you for the $2 donation. Who do you guys want to start? Kobe Bryant or Ty Akata?
That's a tough one to me because I do feel like there needs to be a little bit of a rotation there because Kobe probably won't be 100% himself. Because he's missed the last month or so. But I do feel like he's a better player than Okada overall. So I kind of want to start Kobe and then kind of figure things out from there. But I don't feel super firm about it. I'm not going to be upset if it's the other way around.
I wish I could give you a strong opinion on this as well, but I'd share really where Brendan's at on this too. See this, where I look at it and I just go, I don't know that I see one guy or the other that I would hold in more higher regard to it. I think that they're both fairly close to each other as far as player wise goes. Okada might have more upside in the long term, but they're pretty equivalent to me. I don't think that one does something way significantly better than the other. Both are very solid in what they bring back there, and there's probably room to utilize all three, and they like to run 3 safety looks at times here and there with Mike McDonald's defense, so this does open up that ability to do that, but this would be more because it is so close. I just come down to the coaching staff on this one, that I don't have a great idea. Both are capable of taking away the ball, both good in coverage, both are assignment correct. Okada's maybe been a little bit of a better tackler than Bryant this year. Bryant's a little bit more ball skills and more ability to maybe take away the ball than Okada. The ball just kind of finds him a little bit more. So
and don't forget that he's great at forcing those fumbles. That's like
peanut Tillman punch.
Skills. Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's got it in his bag. So see this, I'd say it's a tough one on that one. It's kind of a coin flip on that one. Just you go to the coaching staff and you go, I'll lean to what they got to say on this one because I don't have a strong opinion, to be honest with you, on that side. Let's give a shout out, if we can, Brendan, here to the sponsor of the show, which is going to be, if I can freaking get my deal right, which I did here. It was going to be Sleeper. Sleeper sponsoring both my and Brandon's show. Very proud sponsor, both of our shows on that side of it. And right now you can utilize Sleeper's code of my code Nest or Brendan's code of SBN. So we're having a code off, folks. Please do use one of our 2 codes. Get matched up to 100% of $100 of your first deposit using Nest or SBN. And then there is a but wait, there's more, because you can get a no deposit needed. Just create a login. They'll put $20 into your account. So $120 from me and Brendan to you, depending on which code you use, of course. And there are terms and conditions that do apply. Please do see their site for detail. But Sleeper's the #1 sports app running right now. You can get so many different picks and so many different options on there versus some of these other apps that exist out there. You can pair basketball and football. You can get in the weekly playoff fantasy football run if you still want to get that itch that scratch a little bit on that side of it. We've got the over and unders here for this upcoming game, and I've picked out my 4. Let's see if we got the Brendan stamp of approval on this one, Brendan. What do you think about my picks?
I like it. It makes a lot of sense to me. That screen game with the running backs is coming along these last few weeks. So the Walker pick is great.
Boys.
Jennings, I mean, somebody's got to catch the ball with Kittle out. So you figure Jennings is going to do something. And yeah, looks great to me, man. I'm down with it.
Not seeing Myers miss the field goals. Walker over 12.5 receiving yards. Charbonnet more than 46.5 rushing yards. And Jennings with more than 41.5 receiving yards. Do use that code today. Take advantage of this code. Yes, there are some problems. It's still at times used in the state of Washington. It's still supposed to open up anytime, and you can use it at any casino in the state of Washington, which got a lot of casinos on their network. You can use the app in full. Go out there, put your knowledge to the test. Go win some money. Brandon, let us hear. We got one more dono in here from Mumbles. Thank you for the 5 on that, Mumbles. Earlier dono was Jesse saying Tonjes was just as good as Kittle is coping. By that logic, Sam Darnold is as good as Tom Brady. Jesse. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, my bad. Sorry, misunderstood.
Okay, are we sure Jesse is a 49ers fan? Because I don't think any Niners fan could ever say that Tonjes is as good as Kittle. Like, Kittle is a legend. Kittle might be a Hall of Famer. Like, are you kidding me?
Well, so let's add context to this. Jesse, to give Jesse some fairness on this, what he's saying is Kittle in his current state. So with the ankle in the state that it was last week and where he was at, as heavily removed as he was, essentially the 70% of George Kittle is less than 100% of Tonjes. That's what he's saying at this point. And that's where I think that that's fair to say that Kittle was out there probably operating on that ankle and trying to play on that ankle when he probably should have still been sitting on the bench. But it's that they're in the playoffs and that he's trying to go for it and he's got the hunger to get the Super Bowl championship, and that's the same thing that's driving Fred Warner was driving him to be out there. But it wasn't because he was out there with 100% of health. And in Tonjes, he has been a guy that's been an effective pass catcher for them and has been a pretty good run blocker for them too. So he's given them all around very solid play. But that's what Jesse was trying to say, was that it's a guy, your Kittle's heavily reduced the player that was playing out there this past week versus Tonjes at 100%, which I think that's fair.
Okay, it's at least closer. I mean, it's at least closer to what might be the case. Yeah, okay, I could see that. I guess I could see that, but again, their offense was heavily restricted by the fact that Kittle wasn't 100% or nowhere close to 100%.
I agree.
And by the way, Kittle's been hurt all year. He's still by far the #1 graded tight end on Pro Football Focus.
True. That's a good point. That's a very good point. You're right. Literally the first game of the year, he was banged up. When it comes down to the coping part, that's the true part of this, which is just down to this, Mumbles. You have a team that's at the end of their Super Bowl window. They didn't get it done. They are going to have to now turn this over in the most painful ways, while at the same point in time paying a quarterback $53 million. They're going to have a further onset of retires that are going to happen probably this offseason. Here they're running to the end of the road, and they're seeing this happen at the same time that we've grabbed one of the great dynamic young coaches in the sport, where we're ahead of time, where we've been able to beat this division and being ahead of time this year, where we look like, as much as anybody, we are literally the Super Bowl favorites right now as it stands. And you're looking at that reality of it, and it's your most hated rival being the Seahawks. Yeah, you're going to start turning around, trying to find ways to cope around that and trying to talk yourself into how you can win the game and how this is not going to be the reality, because that's going to suck and be horrible. We go win a Super Bowl, we win a Super Bowl. Think about this too. We not only win the Super Bowl, we win the Super Bowl in their house if we win it. We're raising Lombardi in Levi Stadium. Like, that's going to be a bitter pill for Niner fans to swallow for future years, especially knowing that their window closed up, that they have the second one, the Harbaugh one, and now the Shanahan one, both where you got those getting the Super Bowl, you couldn't get it done. And now you got to reset this thing and re-engineer it. It's going to take a couple years down the line to get there. So I get it. When you're looking at the darkness, we were facing the same thing at the end of the Legion of Boom era. We're like, man, there's a lot of work to be done here. We got to do a lot of revitalizing this team. And it's no fun looking at that while at the same time your rival is really coming into form, doing smart things and They got money to spend, and they got a third youngest roster in all of football. I mean, it's a lot of tough. That's a lot of tough to have to look at and go, no, it's fine. We'll be all right. No, I mean, it's going to be hard, It's the way it rolls with that mold. Thank you for the clarity though, man. Sorry, a little bit misunderstood that on the first run. All right, well, let's get to the part of the show that's going to be the fun part here, Brendan. We got the knowledge now, okay? We know Sam's playing. We know Fred Warner's not. We know where the Niners situation is. 4 games, 21 days, coming out on the road after going out to Philadelphia. 7-point favorites via Vegas. Give me your score on this game.
I'm going to go 24-10. 24-10. Oh. That feels about right.
Well, we're in a similar place, folks. I'm 27-13. That's where I've been on this one as well. I see a 2-touchdown win. I think it's going to be a bit of a probing situation early on in the game. Both teams kind of feeling each other out. And then I think like we do, we get in the second half and really take off in that third quarter and really extend things out at that point and put them away and, get it done. So we're in the same kind of like-minded point. I just feel like we're the better team. We've got the bye. We got the rest. This Niner team's going to be tired as hell. They're beat up. They're battered. They're wounded. They're not as strong as they've been in recent years. And it's great time for us to strike and put them away. Put this team away. Put away the Super Bowl championship run. Storybook season continues, Brendan, as you just keep taking down the bullies off the block, but you also keep marching along towards that Super Bowl title at the very same time. It is such a beautiful, beautiful part to the season that I've loved. Haven't you?
Right. Yeah. It's been really special. And look, we got a head coach that's a detail-oriented guy. Now's the time you want to have that detail-oriented guy. So, hey, I'm down for it.
I'm down for it as well. Couple last donations here. Addis the Gamer, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, just so everybody knows, Darnold will play. RELAX. Relax, baby. We got it. He's fine. He's fine.
Yeah,
and I love it. You guys are dropping donuts just to give us the updates on Darnold. Thank you. You guys are awesome for that, by the way. Appreciate you.
According to Darnold, the oblique pain is on his non-throwing side, which is kind of interesting. Like, I wonder how that happened. Like that's a little more interesting than the throwing side.
Makes it easier to get through, though. If you're on that throwing side, that's where it really hurts. The non-throwing, I think you can kind of tough that through. So good to hear. Good to hear from Darnold on that. Daniel Bailey, thank you for another $2 donation. Jesse listed as questionable with an oblique after reaching hard. Indeed, he's bending over backwards, Daniel. He might snap that back. He's bending over backwards trying to get around so hard on finding the logic on that one, huh? So
I like it.
We'll see. He's got our bet this week, Brendan, after the hat bet, is that the loser has to write a poem. So if he loses, he has to write a poem in love of Sam Darnold. And it has to be no chat GPT, no AI driven. It's got to be like, he has to write it. I have to write one to the greatness of Shanahan. I have to write a poem to the greatness of Shanahan if they win. So
yeah, that feels a little uneven because Shanahan is great. Like we both agree Shanahan's great, but then he has to write about Darnold. Like I think you're coming out better on that one. I like it.
I am, and let's face it, with how we're walking in this game versus how they're walking in this game, not the worst of places to be on this side of the bet either, right?
Right, right.
It ain't exactly them at the height of their powers. I'm going to look forward to that.
Yeah, if Shanahan didn't coach a division rival, he'd probably be my favorite coach in the league. Like I like Shanahan.
He's awesome. Yeah. He's great at what he's done, and he's done his best work this year. So yeah, I agree. It's kind of being easy. It's like I wish he wasn't as good as he is. But I have a lot of respect for what he does.
Oh yeah.
Warhammer, thank you as well for the update on the Darnold situation. You guys are awesome for that, giving us the updates with the donos. He's dropped a $2 donation. He says Darnold says close to 0% chance he won't play. Well, there we go. 0.0000001% chance he doesn't play. He's playing, folks. It's playoffs.
Yeah.
He's got his chance to flip this narrative. He's going to do it.
Yeah.
He's going to do it.
Who was the player who was like driving a pizza home and then he had to brake really hard? So he like leaned over to protect the pizza and then he got hurt and missed the next game. Do you remember that?
I do remember that happening. I forget.
I can't remember who it was, but that's what it would take. So get all your pizzas delivered, Sam. Get your pizza delivered, Uber Eats, whatever. Like you don't need to drive to pick up that pizza this weekend.
I want to see him in a hyperbaric chamber for the next 48 hours, Brendan.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. I just don't take him out like Michael Jackson style. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just like MJ style. All right. Well, thank you guys for all of your donos today, Brendan. I really appreciate doing this show with you out throughout this year. And hopefully we get to keep this thing going and cover this team. And it's looking good right now on the surface of this with some of this information we'll be able to give you here, just breaking with this show as it's gone along. We've got Cross good to go. Darnold says nearly 0% chance he's not going to play. Kobe Bryant back out there. You're fully good to go with all of your guys in that standpoint of things. Niners not playing Fred Warner. Going to be in a tough state as far as injury. Both me and Brendan have this as a 2-touchdown win. So now all we got to do is go out there, go get this win, go get it done, and then move this on down to where we're 2 games away from a Super Bowl championship at that point. We'll be so very close, but I can taste it, Brendan. I can smell it. I can feel it. It's right there, just on the edge of our grip, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I like it. Very excited. Last
donor from Addis the Gamer. Thank you for the $5 donation. All your support today, Addis. Says, I like how Weiner fans are using the underdog mentality when they are pretending they weren't favorites the past couple of years. Annoying. Yeah, okay. You guys are underdogs, sure. You guys have been front runners too on this and at the front side. So maybe they're thinking that, hey, it hasn't worked in our favor being the front runners. So maybe it'll work better for us, Addis, to be the be the underdogs.
Yeah, I'm cool with that, but we're not going to be underdogs. I mean, we're 7-point favorites right now, and the line, if anything, is probably going to move at the last second, especially with the Fred Warner news.
I think it will. You're going to see it probably get to 8 points by the time of the game, and that's just all the things that come into this that are so tough. I've referenced over and over, Brendan, that this stat here, that's the one that just stands out to me, which I think speaks to a pretty major part of the story. I know I presented this to you last week and wrap this up here, but just the 73% win rate in divisional round games after the first round bye. And that's keeping in mind for a lot of those years, you had 2 number 1 seeds in either conference, right? So it's kind of like even like more than this now when you think we only have just 1 seed in either conference, and that when you had the 2 number 1 seeds, you had kind of a lesser number 1 seed in each conference, right? More of a chance they lose. But now as you have the pure ones, I would say that this stat only in the future is going to go up to probably like 75, 76, 76, 77%, don't you? As we look into the future years on this one.
Almost certainly. Yeah, very true. And I mean, I know that you think the Bills are going to beat the Broncos this weekend, right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would probably be your one road team that wins. Statistically speaking, that is typically how it goes. One road team wins. And I mean, and then you got the Rams, by the way, who are favored, at least. I don't know if they're going to win, but they're favored.
But even that wouldn't be those would be because you're number 1 seed. These are only in regards to number 1 seeds. So like
right.
Bears would be a number 1 seed. But yeah, there's always going to be the upsets in the playoffs at this time of year with those intermixed seeds a little bit more. But this particular right off the bye, next round, divisional round game, it's been pretty dominated since 1990 by the number 1 seeds. And especially with what we have in our back pocket going into this game, I can't see us losing. I really can't. I really want you guys to do me this favor if you can. We got almost 600 people on the chat here today. If you can, hit that like button for both me and Brendan on either side that you're watching. If you're not subbed up to Seahawks Brendan Nelson, please do get subbed up to Seahawks Brendan Nelson. And if you're watching on his side, please do get subbed up here on the Hawks Nest. We'll be cooking through with all of these shows throughout the offseason, into the playoffs, into the Super Bowl. We'll be rolling along on that side of it. Again, do use our code on Sleeper, be it SBN or Nest, either one on that side of it. We'll be coming back here on Thursday, hopefully celebrating a Seahawks win and a look at the next opponent and just keep this ball moving, keep this thing going. But Brendan, this has been one hell of a fun ride here throughout the season, being able to chop this up on you. Us for going through this for so many years, trying to deal with not the greatest of teams or had things that had definite things we knew were going to hold them back from being able to reach the promised land. We don't feel that way this year, man. And it's a great feeling. I know all the Hawk fans are riding high as well, but it's been just great that we get to celebrate this and really get to enjoy this for some of the drudgery that we had to go through as well.
Yeah. It's good to be back, man. And there are plenty of teams that have gone a lot longer without success. I mean, there are plenty of teams out there that are still waiting after 30, 40, 50 years, it feels like. So to get right back here after basically, a decade, it's pretty incredible. And it shows that this is becoming a model organization in this league.
They really are, which is just another great thing to develop here because it makes you that much of an attractive location as you're trying to get in that Super Bowl window for maybe some of those vets out there that are trying to go ring chase. That starts to become a thing that opens itself back up to us as a possibility now. Folks, if you go in that stadium this week, if you're walking in there, I've been saying this all week, I want to put a reminder as we close this up right now. You walk in that stadium, you give your life force and energy to this team. I want you screaming, I want you yelling, I want you giving all you've got in that stadium if you happen to be lucky enough to have a ticket in there. Give this Niners team hell. Make them feel that stadium like it was 10 years ago. Get it ripping, get it roaring. have this to help this team out. They've given you everything that you could ask for a reason to root for this team, for a reason to believe that this team can take the ultimate prize. But they need you to get there. 2 more games. Walk in that stadium, give it all you got, be loud as you can throughout the whole course of this game. If the fans can bring a 12th old time type game with that energy, if they bring that energy in this game, this thing's won, no doubt about it. It's really on you guys if you can do it. So I know you agree on this, Brendan, 100%. Let's bring that old kind of feeling into the stadium this week in these next 2 games. Let's give them that wind at their back to help them get to the Super Bowl. They've done so much for us to provide us with such a great season to get to this spot. Let's reward them for that. Let's bring back that old magic. They've given you a reason to root for them. They've given you a reason to believe. Show them.
Any excuse you might have had in previous years why the fan base wasn't the same, it's all gone now. This is maybe the greatest regular season in franchise history.
Could be, and that just all the more reason to give them your full support. I know you guys will, but if you're in that stadium, just a reminder, you know somebody going in that stadium, let them know. Taker 610 with the $5 donation to finish us off. Thank you for that, Taker. I know a little freak out here says, I joined the stream. You were talking about Drew Lock. I was like, oh my God, what happened? So the Seahawks decided to kind of freak everybody out here today with the injury report for some reason. I don't know if, again, Mike McDonald might be playing games with Shanahan playing games with Mike McDonald. There's a little bit of like gamesmanship going on here, Taker 610. Maybe there's just that he had the injury come up and it just they had to report it and it popped up. But Drew Lock's not going to be playing. Sam Darnold's going to be playing. Sam said there's almost 0% chance he doesn't not play. So I know this is a little bit of a freak out on this, and understandably so, but Sam's playing, Sam's going, Sam's fully good to go. Right.
And should be able to play well. I don't think that we're going to be coming back to this if he doesn't have a good game on Saturday.
100%. It should not hold him out from being able to get the job done here in this game. So all good. We're doing all great on it. I know I understand it's a little fearful on that one, but Sam will be playing and we'll be all good there. And he should play well, as Brendan just said on that. But sorry for the freak out there, Taker. It was breaking news as we were live here. So we were kind of having to roll with the punches right as it was all kind of coming off the back of the truck, so to speak there. All right, folks, we will be back here in a week, hopefully celebrating the Seahawks win and on to the conference championship title game. But until that time, we shouldn't have to remind you with all that is at play, all that is at stake here, playing the greatest rival you've got in the NFL, the greatest rivalry, I will say, Brendan, and I think you'd agree right now, cooking in the NFL is the Seahawks-Niners still. I don't think there's been one that's overtaken us in the last 10 years. I can't think of another division where it's this hot. I mean, you can feel it, right? You got Niner fans, I'm sure, popping in your chat. They're just real mouthy, real lippy, aren't they?
They're feeling it right now, and I kind of get why. I mean, it's the playoffs. Why not feel it? But I'm feeling real good about this one right now, and I think all Seahawks fans should be, especially with that Charles Cross news.
Absolutely. You're ready to go. You're as healthy as you've maybe ever been at this time of year for a squad this deep in the playoffs. You've got as good a chance as anybody to go take it. So Seahawks fans, get ready, get right. Be ready and be right in that stadium if you're in there in a couple of days to let them know. But let's keep this ball rolling. Let's go get this win, and let's just keep the magic happening here. Thank you for doing this, Brendan. Appreciate all of y'all for watching. Really, really kind of you for all the donations as well. Again, another dono just as we're coming out the door. You guys are late on those donos. I'm going to miss these donos sometimes when you guys are late. Yeah. Thank you for the $2 donation over on Brendan's side with North Swing. Thank you for that. It says, thanks for everything you do, Brandon and Brendan. Well, it's our pleasure, man. We both know we're very lucky to get to do what we get to do here on this YouTube and doing it full time and just going to war. And you guys watch every time we go live in the way that you do. It's really, really much appreciated. And especially this season to be able to celebrate this with you guys and having so much fun. It's awesome as ever for both of us. I know I get to speak. I don't often try to speak for Brendan, but I'll speak for him in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't feel too bad about that one. I think you're on
I go out on that plank, I think, for you on that one. All right, folks, we will be back next week, but I'm telling you, don't you forget, keep yourself locked in. Yeah, use that nerves. Use the nerves to your benefit. Just get this, enjoy it, revel in it. Don't get to be here very often, but please don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.